Thank you for joining. Hello, this is Dr. Paul Cottrell. I'm recording on feedback. Sorry about that. Thank you for joining. Let me repeat. This is Dr. Paul Cottrell, and I'm recording on December 5th here. This is also a live stream. I'm live streaming through 3 different methods. Actually, 4 different methods. On the big channel, you can see the larger video. You can also see the telemetry of the market in real time on my smaller channel on YouTube, where you see a bunch of stock tickers of different ETFs or currency or indices. You actually see price curves, and you see real-time news coming from Dow Jones. And on X, I have to set it up right now, but on X, you'll be able to join and do a call-in. This is supposed to be interactive, so if you want to call in to the show, go to X Spaces and listen to the show there. Just raise your hand. Just make sure that your different systems are muted so there's no echo. But it's a great way to call in. To get to the X Spaces, just go to the link that's in the description of this video and all my videos, and follow me on X. I have 2 actually feeds, so make sure that you subscribe to both of them. So that's a great way to interact. So that's the call-in. So the call-in is through X Spaces for the show. All right. What I want to do, with it being a one-man show, there's a lot of buttons that I have to click to make this thing work. So, pardon my, being a little bit discombobulated. There's a lot to go over in the news today. We want to go over what happened with Hegseth, the back and forth with Lindsey Graham. I want to go over the drones, quote, alien invasion that was going on yesterday. I want to go over what's going on in France. There is a no confidence vote, so the parliament president, I think it's called, I think is being dismissed. So there's turmoil in France. There's obviously things that are going on with the Middle East and Ukraine, and then also what's going on in the markets. So there's a lot to cover today, all right? I didn't do a feed yesterday. I had a terrible headache. I had those, the Dr. Paul Cottrell migraine again. So I didn't do a show yesterday. I apologize. But there's a lot going on in France, and the international markets. So before I begin with the videos, I want to just do a recap of the market. Now, the market has not opened up in New York yet. Okay, it will open up at 9:30. So let's talk about where we're at right now. So the S&P 500 is at 6,086 for the ones that can see the dashboard. All right. So 6,089. I'm sorry. 6,000. Wait, it closed. Right now it's 6,086. All right. VIX is at 1351. Euro USD trade is appreciating now at 1.057. So the euro is advancing against the USD. So the USD is slightly weakening relative to a couple days ago, which is surprising because of what's going on in France. So that's a little bit of a weird thing going on. Right now, BITO, which is the ETF for Bitcoin long, is at 25.55. So Bitcoin, I believe, has been appreciating. So we should see, when the market opens up, the ETF for BITO to be elevated a little bit. So oil is trading at 69.05, so below $70 a barrel. Now, there was a news announcement with OPEC that they were not going to increase production. So, and we'll probably hear that on Bloomberg when we cover it. You would think that if they're not going to increase production for a while, then that oil should be going up above $70 a barrel. Now, again, most of OPEC, if not all of OPEC, is Brent crude. So there's two different main oil markets. The Brent oil market, which trades a little bit higher than the WTI. So but they're highly correlated. So if Brent goes up, WTI goes up. So I would think that oil should be going up above $70 a barrel. It's a little surprising. Now, it could be that they say, we don't want to put it anymore, we don't want to increase production because we suspect that there may be less use of oil. Well, why would there be less use of oil unless there is concern about some sort of economic instability? Now, maybe that economic instability is in Asia or in Europe or in the United States. I suspect it's more about Asia, but we need to dive in a little bit more about that. So the big question is oil going to be trading above $70 a barrel for WTI or not? Right now, it's just below 70. It's at 69. Okay, with that said, we're going to go to France 24 to figure out what is going on in France, all right? Before we do that, please help support my work and help support your health by going to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and getting the great health supplements that I have, all right? These are products that I take that's part of my stack, my daily stack, to slow down the aging process, to improve my different systems like my endocrine system or my immune system or my liver or my brain or whatever, right? Cardiovascular system, guts. So one great product that I have on the store to improve your health, and a product that I use every day, is C60. C60 is a very strong, potent antioxidant. And you need good antioxidants on a daily basis to soak up those free radicals. Free radicals do damage to your cells and to your tissue and to your organ systems. And through free radicals, you age faster. If you soak up those free radicals, your cells are better, you have more energy, your tissues are better, and your tissues within your different organ systems will perform better. And you age slower. Okay, so this is the reason why by taking C60, you'll have more energy and you age slower. So C60 is a 60 carbon molecule, looks like a soccer ball, right? A fullerene, and it's designed to soak up free radicals. It's potent, more potent than, let's say, vitamin C or resveratrol or some of these other antioxidants, because resveratrol or let's say vitamin C, it's a molecule and it can only soak up one free radical, because there's 60 of these, 60 carbons, and the way the carbon, I don't want to get into the chemistry of it, but the way the carbon molecule is structured, it can soak up hundreds of free radicals for one C60 molecule compared to one molecule of vitamin C. That's why it's so potent. So take a teaspoon a day, all right? Just take a teaspoon a day, every day, and what will happen is it'll be soaking up those free radicals, and we slow down the aging process. Your mitochondria is going to be improved. You're going to have more energy. When you have more energy, your systems will perform better. Your immune system will perform better. Your brain will perform better. Your neurons will perform better. Your liver will perform better. Your endocrine system will perform better. And by calming down the stress from the reactive oxygen species, you're actually calming down the immune system. And you're reducing that chronic inflammation. Because part of the inflammation is pro-inflammatory cytokines and also free radicals. So you're attacking that inflammatory response through the free radical mechanism. So please, go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the C60. I have it in 3 different varieties of oil. Because C60 is lipid soluble, it has to be in an oil. It has to be suspended in oil for you to be able to absorb it. So You can get it in avocado oil, MCT coconut oil, or extra virgin olive oil. You can get it in a 2 ounce, a 4 ounce, or an 8 ounce configuration. The higher ounce configuration, the cheaper it is per ounce. So it's up to you. Take a teaspoon a day. That's the best way to do it. Every day, there's compound effects. Your energies, your energy levels will increase, and the healthier mitochondria will increase, and you're soaking up those free radicals. It's a very potent antioxidant. It's a very high quality antioxidant. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the C60 avocado, MCT coconut oil, or the extra virgin olive oil in a 2 ounce, a 4 ounce, or an 8 ounce configuration. Okay, with that said, let's go to France and figure out what is going on over there. Looks like they're going to have a revolution.
Commission and other EU member states know full well that we're probably not going to have a government shutdown in France because there are these stopgap measures. There's a way to roll over the current budget into next year. Nonetheless, if that happens, the forecasts are that France's budget deficit goes from 5.1% of GDP now to 7% next year if there's no change in policy. So in other words, if there's no these aggressive measures, if you will, that Barnier put forward to cut the deficit, those will presumably no longer be in place, at least not for now. So that is why the Commission will still be worried about the long-term outlook, and it will be obviously looking to see not so much, I think, who the next French Prime Minister is, because that's really secondary to the question of can any Prime Minister succeed where Barnier failed? Can any Prime Minister bring this divided Parliament together enough to push through measures that will actually get this public deficit under control? That is what the European Commission and EU member states will be looking for in the longer term.
Right, and this weekend.
So for the ones that don't know, so you have French president and you have the French prime minister. Okay, so it's more of a parliamentary situation, the chaos that's going on there.
Facing the EU?
Well, Ursula von der Leyen and Emmanuel Macron are already sort of having a maybe war of words is a bit exaggerated, but certainly very public statements contradicting each other today. Ursula von der Leyen arriving in Uruguay to continue talks with Mercosur, that's the South American Latin American trade bloc, to finalize a deal between the EU and that Latin American trade bloc, which would lower tariffs and essentially create a kind of common market for 700 million people. That is something that she's clearly very keen to finish. She said earlier today that she was there to try and get this over the finish line, the Mercosur deal, in response, of course, President Macron saying that this deal as it stands is not acceptable, and France very much concerned that if this deal goes through, there will be blowback from the French farming sector at a time when, of course, President Macron is politically seems very much weaker than he used to be, and it would probably not be a good time for him to have a major farming backlash and protests across France if Mercosur goes through. So France's task now, faced with this determination that we're hearing from the European Commission, is to get other EU member states on board to oppose Mercosur. So even if the deal is actually inked between the European Commission and the Mercosur countries, it can still be not approved by EU member states. So to get that done, France will need the support of basically 3 other EU member states representing 35% of the EU population, and then it will be able to block anything that has been agreed before that.
Armin Jordan, thanks very much.
Thanks.
Indeed. Now, a reminder for you that President Macron will speak tonight at 8 p.m. Paris time, and he will then lay out his vision, or he may lay out some of his vision for how France navigates this political quagmire. We'll take a look at that. We'll bring it to you live here on France 24 in translation. Of course, that's at 8 o'clock Paris time.
Okay, so the news feed on the dashboard, OPEC Plus extends oil output cuts to late 2026. So output cuts. So that means that there's going to be less oil on the market. So you would think that oil should be going up, all right, based on that news. And they're extending it into 2026. Now, obviously, they can change their mind if things change. Now, they may be thinking, you know what, maybe with Trump's administration doing drill, baby, drill, there's gonna be so much oil on the market that they don't want to, that, you know, because WTI is gonna start to go down because of all this oil that's gonna be pumped out of the ground, that they want to kind of help the price a little bit by cutting their side of production, the OPEC plus. That could be. This might be their method to kind of counteract the drill baby drill policy from Trump. So maybe that's the reason why there's no real big, you know, movement in oil. But okay, we also have the Korea issue. All right. So let's. They're going to be talking, I think, about Korea here.
To citizens.
대통령은 민주당의 폭거 때문에 어쩔
The president said he made the decision to stop the Democratic Party's tyranny. I share the same sentiment. Their tyranny has crossed the line and must be punished, but it cannot rationalize unconstitutional and unlawful declaration of martial law.
비상개혁을 합리화할 수는 없습니다.
Taking responsibility for the order, Defense Minister Kim Yong-hyun resigned on Thursday. He's been accused by members of the president's party of being behind the failed attempt at martial law. Meanwhile, the deputy defense minister faced a grilling in parliament and pointed the finger of blame at his boss, saying that Kim had ordered the deployment of troops. South Korean police are now investigating President Yoon Suk-yeol for alleged insurrection. The crime transcends presidential immunity and can carry the death penalty. While the latter punishment, the impeachment motion, will be voted over the weekend.
In other news, today the Syrian army has acknowledged that its soldiers have pulled out of the centre of the city of Hama in the heart of the country. The fall of Hama from government hands would represent a huge blow to President Bashar al-Assad, whose forces are still reeling after insurgents seized control of Syria's second city, Aleppo, just last week. The rapid advance by the rebels has surprised experts on Syria. Hama has been in government hands since the civil war began in Syria in 2011, and the front lines have been largely static for years. Well, Wasim Nasser is one of those experts on Syria. He's our terrorism expert as well. He's with me in the studio now. Wasim, what is happening in Hama? Can we say definitively government forces have lost the city?
Definitely, government forces have lost the city, and even HTS fighters opened the prison of the city, and they set free many prisoners.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna look at the map to see how it evolved actually in the last few days. So the blue area is the area that was captured by HTS and the rebels since last Wednesday, and we see that Hama was one of the stops that they had because the government forces in Hama put up a resistance since like 48 hours. We're gonna have a closer look to Hama to see how the fronts were this morning around the city actually. And here it is. So the blue area is the area this morning that was still held, that was held by the rebels, and the purple area is the area held by the regime. And what's interesting in this, that we see that the rebels were stopped north of Hama in Jabal Zain al-Abidin, where there's a big military barracks, and around, because those villages there are loyalist villages, and the explosion down south of Hama is actually the military airport. So the military airport was bombed by HTS drones, and then the most interesting part about this, that they were actually stopped on the M5 because of the huge effort that the Syrian army put on this highway, but they succeeded in making a real military maneuver actually, where they took the city from two sides,
You know what's
from the
interesting
east
here?
and from the west.
Okay,
And
Trump wants to de-escalate what's going on in Ukraine. And right before Trump gets in, there seems to be an escalation in Syria. It almost seems as though you can never have peace anywhere when it comes to the Pentagon. You know, we had to get out of Afghanistan, but right away we have to, start having problems in Ukraine. So is this similar? Where, you know, Ukraine is actually going to be de-escalated in violence and in war, but an escalation in Syria, maybe. I'm not even sure what really who's the bad guy, who's the good guy, what's going on here. I don't know. I mean, because I know this was kind of an issue yesterday, and I didn't really cover it, so I'm a little like kind of one day behind on what's going on in Syria. But you know, this seems to me to be almost national security state catalyzed to you know, to create a more conflict in that region. Because, you know, if you don't have a conflict in Ukraine, you gotta have one in Syria, right? Crazy. All right. Oh, by the way,
now footage is that
I did set up for the ones that are just joining. There's 4 ways to, you know, watch the live feed or participate, right? You can watch it on the big channel, all right? You can watch it on the smaller YouTube channel, which has the telemetry. You can watch it on my website, and you can watch the live feed of either channel, the big channel, right? Right? You can watch it on the big channel, or you can also watch the telemetry on my website. All right, so you can watch either one. And the way you do that is just go to the-studio-reykjavik.com and just go under broadcast and live. The drop down for broadcast live, it'll take you there, bam, and then boom, you got it. So it's the-studio-reykjavik.com to take a look at the live feed, and you can also listen to podcasts. You know, I have my audio version of these that are starting to be cataloged and data banked on the website, so you can listen to them. You can listen to it also on Podomatic or Apple Podcast. So there's lots of ways to listen. But during this live broadcast, you can watch it on the big channel. You can watch it on one of the smaller YouTube channels that I have with the telemetry. You can watch it on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com under broadcast live. And you can listen in to X Spaces. Get on X Spaces, listen to it. If you want to do a call in, just raise your hand. You can ask a question, or you can, you know, tell me, you know, what's your opinion about what we're covering. This is supposed to be interactive, so please listen also on X Spaces, participate. All right, let's continue on.
Around it, to go through the National Scene Army areas all the way to the EPG areas, it did not materialize yet, but this is a big challenge actually for them, but also handling what the most important issue for them today as we speak is to be out of a terrorist classification.
Okay.
They want to get rid of this classification, and they are making their best, if I may say so, to get rid of it. And one of the latest communiques that Giuliani himself made was addressed to the Iraqi Prime Minister, telling him not to allow Shia militias or the Shia mobilization force in Iraq to get into the fight in Syria, and asking him to stay away from this war, and that this war doesn't concern him, as he stayed away from the war between Iran and Israel, so the latest war. Meaning also this is also messaging to Israel from Giuliani, and he also addressed, and we'll end with this, the population of Hama, which is very symbolic for the Syrian revolution, and he told them after 40 years of oppression, we are liberating you, and we hope that this liberation would come without a vengeance. So meaning he is trying to be as consensual as possible, and to get rid of this, through this, to get rid of the classification as a terrorist organization.
All right, fascinating. We'll see what happens. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Wasim Nasser for us there. Now, Amnesty International has accused the state of Israel of committing genocide against Palestinians in the Gaza war. Amnesty is the first major human rights group to reach that conclusion. It said its report, published today, comes in the wake of months of detailed analysis, including, it said, evidence that Israel had committed 3 out of the 5 acts of the 1948 Genocide Convention. Here's the head of Amnesty, Agnes Kalamar.
We looked at everything that needed to be considered, and at the end, the only reasonable conclusion that could be drawn is that Israel intended and intend to commit genocide. If you are supporting the ICC on President Putin, then you must support the ICC on Prime Minister Netanyahu. There cannot be double standards in the implementation of justice, and it is for, of course, the preservation of justice. It is for the Palestinians of Gaza.
Well, Israel has
All right, so
strongly rejected
the
those
market just opened, all right? And remember what I was saying about Bitcoin. So, Bitcoin is most likely going to go up. So the ETF in opening of BITO did go up almost $1. It went up 94 cents. So it's now trading at 26.49. So that did happen. That appreciation in Bitcoin ETF did happen in the open, and VIX is trading at about 13.48, very low risk. So equities probably will rally. Right now we're trading at 6,088 for the S&P 500, and Euro USD is trading at 1.057. So dollar is a little weak today in relative terms compared to a couple days ago, and oil is trading at 68.93, so it's trading down based on that OPEC plus news announcement. All right, let's jump over to Bloomberg because of the opening here.
Closing in on the identity of the suspect who gunned down the United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. So police have sought a search warrant for a location in New York City where they believe the suspect may have been staying. ABC says police now have a pretty good sense of who the shooter is, and they're still looking for him. He left clues at the scene. Now the words delay and depose were written on a shell casing and a live round recovered in front of the New York Hilton Midtown. The inscriptions loosely echo a book, the title of which is Delay, Deny, Defend, which describes tactics allegedly used by insurers to deny claims. Law enforcement officials may look at it, and it suggests a potential motive, anger against health insurers. United Health was among a group of companies recently slammed in a Senate report for using automated tools to
I'll tell you, the insurance company has hijacked the healthcare industry. All right, but also there are agents, there are professional groups like AMA, right, that have also taken over the industry. So this is a complex situation, right? The medical industry is broken in the United States. It's broken. It's broken because of the way they train. It's broken the way they reimburse. It's broken because of the monopolies, from these professional organizations. So it's not really a free market at all. And now it's starting to move into where healthcare providers are now unionizing. So now it's going to turn a little bit more like in I guess it's the NHS over in the UK. So it's slowly moving into a very socialistic, controlled environment. Now think about this for a second. We have artificial intelligence that's coming in. Is systems to be able to diagnose and to treat more accurately. We have radiology readings that can be done by an AI more accurately than a human. The algorithms, to treat certain types of diseases can be fed into an AI. So what happens is that the insurance company will go, we want to reduce errors in coding for reimbursement, but we also want to reduce the number of unneeded or unwarranted tests. So what we'll do is that we're going to give a little bit of extra money to clinics that will bring in the AI system. And what will happen is that you work up a patient, you feed in, you do your PE, you do your history, you do your history, right? You do your PE, your physical exam, and you feed it into the system. You know, normally you have a system and you type it in, right? Well, that system is fed into an AI, and the AI will give you a differential diagnosis and give you a probability and how to treat based on the test results and the physical exam and what most likely it will be. And then the doctor will go, or the nurse will go, okay, I agree or I disagree. Now they've done tests on this, and they found out that when you try to override the AI, usually the human overriding is inaccurate. That the AI is more accurate than the human. All right? They've already tested this out. So what's going to happen is that the insurance companies are either going to own these AI systems, or they're going to have some sort of investor relationship with these AI systems and force it into the clinic. These doctors will be given a little bit of extra kickback from the insurance company to use the AI system. So you have other clinics that aren't using it and are penalized with the reimbursement. You have some clinics that just start this off that are going to be rewarded for using the AI system. And what will happen is that costs will go down for the ones that are using the AI system. The outcomes, in theory, should be better. But what happens is that the doctors and the nurses lose autonomy. Just like the doctors and the nurses lost autonomy because of the AMA. So they don't realize that in medical care, AI is coming in to determine what your differential diagnosis will be and what your treatment plan will be based on the probability, based on a probability set from the physical exam and your lab results. And those lab results could be radiological, it could be blood workup, whatever, right? And the only thing that the doctor or the nurse is doing is actually writing a prescription or telling you what to do. And the AI is doing everything else. So when you're doing the physical exam, you're typing it into your system, your patient database, right? And then that feeds into the AI. The AI spits out the result of what you should be doing, automatically codes to the insurance company so you no longer need a biller or a coder or as many coders for it, so it brings down cost. And everything's automated. That's where this is going. Now, the next step, once all the clinics in the United States do this, you don't need as many doctors. You don't need as many nurses. Then all of a sudden, I don't know what year it would be, maybe 2035, you got a Tesla robot, kind of like C3PO, doing the physical exam for you. That is an appendage of the AI system that's just in a box, that's just on a desktop. Right now, the AI is a desktop. That's where healthcare is going. And it's because doctors and nurses allowed for the AMA and the insurance company to take over their industry. And others, other professional organizations that hijacked you. Okay, with that said, please help support my work. How do you support my work? By sharing the links, making sure you subscribe, asking your social network to follow me. I get censored, I get bled subscribers, people are de-subscribed because of YouTube and all that. I'm on 7 different channels. I'm on 4 channels on YouTube, Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. Make sure you subscribe to all those channels. You can follow me on X on 2 channels. You can also follow me on GETTR. You can follow me on Podomatic Apple Podcast, and also on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. And buy the products that I offer. I offer ebooks and supplements and lecture series on pulmonology and immunology. I teach you a lot of how to empower yourself to take charge of your health. Because guess what? Your doctor doesn't care about your health. Newsflash, your doctor does not care about your health. The only one that's going to care about your health is you. So you better take charge of it, or it's going to be costly down the road. Trust me on this. So help support my work by donating. You can donate on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com, through Stripe, PayPal, or Buy Me a Coffee. It's through the donations that allow me to do thousands of videos for free to teach people on how to improve their health. Because guess what? C-3PO, the artificial intelligence, the insurance companies, the doctors, they don't care about you. Trust me. In addition to that, be a paid member to my Patreon channel or donate on Buy Me a Coffee. That way you're helping support my work. But better yet, buy the products that I offer, because if you follow my protocol, you're going to mitigate a lot of the diseases that are very common in the United States. You're going to mitigate cardiovascular disease. You're going to mitigate diabetes or neurological disease. Now, it's not a magic bullet, but most of the disease in the United States is self-induced. So please go to my store, get the health products, follow my protocol. It's something that I do, all right? It's not something I just sell. It's something I've been doing for a long time, and I'm teaching you on how to follow in my footsteps. Great way to do it is, we're in the cold season, all right? Trust me, there's gonna be higher incidences of people with the sniffles, not feeling well, because of different pathogens that are floating around, all right? You got influenza, you got SARS-CoV-2, you got RSV, you got mycoplasma pneumonia. Mycoplasma pneumonia and influenza seem to be on the uptick. So, you got to be prudent, all right? We're in the cold season in the United States. You need to be prepared. How do you prepare? It's about the pillars. Neutralize pathogens, bring down inflammation, soak up free radicals, all right? And have the products around, so the moment you're not feeling well, you can mitigate it. A great way to do that is get the structural nano-silver drops that I have. I have cherry in 100 count, honey and lemon in 100 count, and blueberry in 100 count. These are made from structural nano-silver, and what will happen is it will neutralize that irritant the moment you have that irritating feeling in your throat. It'll help to neutralize it and maintain the mucosal barrier that you need in your oral pharynx to be able to mitigate further infection, all right? If you have things a lot inflamed or your mucosal barrier is weak, you get sick quicker. Well, this is a way to mitigate that. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get a couple bags for your household, blueberry, honey, lemon, and cherry, right? Get a couple bags for your household, because we're in the cold season and you're gonna need it. Trust me, you're gonna need it. Cases are gonna be going up. I said cases were gonna go up in December and January. Be prepared. In addition, a great way to improve and boost up your immune system and neutralize pathogens is to do a certain daily routine, all right? That daily routine is to take a teaspoon of Max 35 or Max 14. So Max 35 or Max 14, all right? Take a teaspoon a day. If you're not feeling well because of the cold season or whatever, take a tablespoon or two a day. What you do is you switch it in your mouth, gargle, and then swallow. And what that's doing is it's neutralizing the irritant, and it's also maintaining that mucosal barrier. So it's boosting up your immune system. Really important, all right? So I take Max 35 every day, teaspoon a day. If I'm not feeling well because of, the cold season or whatever, take a tablespoon or two a day, all right, until that problem goes away, and then go back down to a teaspoon a day. But this is very high quality. Boost up your immune system. Get the Max 35 or the Max 14. Should have that in your, in your house right away when you need it. Because what happens if you're not feeling well, and all of a sudden you get the nasal drainage, and all of a sudden you're coughing, and all of a sudden you have a fever, and you're going, damn, maybe I should have been prepared. Yeah, maybe you should have been prepared. Because what happens is that if you're chronically sick, like let's just say 3 times a year, all right? Most people are sick more than 3 times a year, but let's just say you're sick 3 times a year, and it's mild. You're sick for about 5 to 7 days. And that 5 to 7 days, it sucks. And you try to get better, and you do get better. But it takes 3 weeks with a mild cold to remodel the cells that were damaged. 3 weeks. So you were sick for 7, 3 weeks to fix it. So 1 month has been flushed down the toilet because you were sick, mild sickness. And now your body's remodeling, and you're inflamed, and and your immune system is a little bit down. Now carry that, you're sick 3 times a year. Well, that means 3 months out of the year, you're either sick or remodeling the tissues that have been damaged with a mild cold. Now just imagine if you had something major. That could take you out 6 months for remodeling. And people don't think about this. Just because you think you feel well doesn't mean you are well, right? Because your body is trying to heal what was damaged. And it takes time to do that, especially if you had a major pulmonary infection. Because it takes a while to remodel. Those T2 cells take a long time to remodel, if it can remodel it. And a lot of times when it's chronic, with like chronic bronchitis, eventually you can't remodel it. And eventually you start going down the road of COPD. So, but it's up to you. You can take my advice or don't take my advice. But what I do works. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and think about that. Be prepared. Be prepared. The ones that are prepared are going to be living a better life and a longer life. The ones that are not prepared are going to have problems. It's that simple. And then, lastly, it's important to focus on cardiovascular health. That's a major problem in the United States. Major, major problem. All right? One way to do it is to go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the omega-3. Omega-3 helps to control your lipid profile. It'll lower the LDL levels and increase your HDL levels. That means it's lowering bad cholesterol and increasing your good cholesterol. All right? And by taking this every day, with some of the other things that I'll be mentioning later, you're going to be improving your cardiovascular health. Now, it's not just about taking supplements. It's about proper diet, proper exercise, balancing, challenging your mind, reading, writing, talking to real people, proper sleep, proper supplementation. When you do this holistically, you're going to fare a lot better. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the omega-3. Very high quality omega-3. Everything I have on my store is high quality. Why? Because I want to be taking stuff that's high quality. And this is the stuff that I take on a regular basis to slow down the aging process, to have longevity, to improve my different systems, like my cardiovascular system, my immune system, my neurological system, my GI. And when you do that, you age better. We're all gonna die. But some people are gonna die with suffering because they didn't take care of their body. And there are gonna be some people that will have more vitality throughout their years. It's up to you. Take charge of yourself. Take charge, because no one else will. The doctor, when you start having that, that problem with your heart, you think the doctor really gives a shit? No, he doesn't. He really doesn't. Because he's got 10 other patients that are going to be paying. Okay, let's jump into Bloomberg here.
Unintended. For the hotels, they definitely have added some cautious optimism to their conversations, particularly in China, particularly in the US. And for rental car companies, it's a little bit more of a toss-up. That's more of a cost issue than a revenue issue for them. People are renting cars. People are also using alternatives to renting cars.
Right.
But people are renting cars. It's just that the car companies don't seem to understand their cost structures as well, at least certain car companies.
Can
such as
you
Hertz.
predict issuance for next year? I mean, like you sit there at your desk and go, this is what we're guessing corporate issuance will be?
So I used to do that at my old shop. Now we sort of, I can get a sense of roughly where it's going to be. I think next year is going to be a little bit higher than this year.
What is interesting here is that BITO, which is the ETF for Bitcoin going long, is now trading at 26.73. It's now $1.18 higher in the open.
There's a little bit of economic uncertainty at the moment as we get into the new administration, as we think about tariffs, as we think about global geoeconomic risk of any kind.
So what do they, how are the balance sheets for the leisure companies that you follow? Because I remember distinctly at the beginning of the pandemic, some of the first issuers were your cruise companies going out there raising debt because they knew that this was going to be bad for their business and they needed cash. How are the balance sheets for some of these leisure companies out there?
So for some of the companies, they've gotten back to pre-pandemic levels and even more so, to the point that they're so comfortable that they're instituting very generous shareholder reward plans. For some of the other companies, it's a little bit more of a turnaround story still. Cruise lines we mentioned, they are still very much a turnaround phase, but they are more like 6th, 7th inning as opposed to, first or second inning. That was 2 years ago. The rental car companies, Hertz is definitely a very distinct company within the space that's having issues. That's sort of company specific.
See, I'm a Hertz Gold customer, so tell me what's going on at Hertz. Am I in trouble here?
Well, Hertz Gold customer, you might still be treated nicely, but the issue with Hertz is they have such a young management team. They've had a revolving door of a management team. And for a company like that, there's such an importance to institutional knowledge that I think when you look at them versus Avis, when they're dealing with a lot of the same issues, Avis was able to navigate it much more gracefully, or they've been able to, and they continue to do that. We've seen that time and again.
What's a coupon on like a Hertz or Avis piece?
So Hertz actually is tapping the markets again. They're reissuing for it's 12 5/8 of 29.
12%.
And that's for a secured. That's for first lien
That's
notes.
sick.
For first liens, yeah. And you compare that, and then you compare that to the 2026s that they issued shortly after they reemerged from bankruptcy a few years ago. Those are 4 5/8.
Okay, you're at Bryn Mawr a few years ago. It's a beautiful spring afternoon. Nobody's focused. Nobody's thinking. And you're in class trying to keep awake, and you're doing an M&M theory, Modigliani and Miller theory.
All right, I'm tired of listening to Hertz. So, let's go to CNN about this CEO being shot yesterday. Because, where else are you going to be shot as a CEO? Of course, New York, right?
Just in on the search for this person who killed healthcare CEO Brian Thompson 24 hours ago. Words very much written on shell casings of rounds found at the scene. There had been some confusion in some places about that. This law enforcement sources tell CNN that 2 words were found: delay and deposed. Deposed was written on a shell casing from a round that was fired to the victim. Delay was written on a live round not fired but ejected when the shooter appeared to be clearing a jam. There are images of the suspect at Starbucks, also leaving a subway station. Police also have a video taken by the New York Times of him talking on a phone just minutes before the murder. This, as Thompson's widow now reveals to NBC, quote, "I don't know details. I just know that he said there were some people that had been threatening him." But let's get to the shell casing and the words written on them. With us now, CNN Chief Law Enforcement and Intelligence Analyst John Miller. You've got new information and also, I think, a new visual representation of what we're talking about here.
Well, sure. So, depose is written on a round that was fired. So that's a shell casing that's found on the ground, and they find these tiny letters on it. Delay is found on a live round. That's a full bullet that he probably ejected trying to clear that jam. Those are the two words they found, but investigators doing research into what could this mean, delay, depose, found the maxim of deny, delay, depose, variations of the maxim deny, delay, defend, which is actually the name of a book. These are sayings, and you can find them all over the internet and Reddit and other postings about insurance company practices of trying to find ways out of paying on claims that they are disputing. So what they believe is the killer was sending a message. Now this is a 9mm round. This is the shell casing, the silver part, the copper part is the actual bullet. And to write something on something this small, and I mean, John, picture how you would try to do that. Would you take a fine point Sharpie? Would you try to scratch it in? It means someone went to a lot of trouble to try and create this message that would be left at the scene. Now, he's missing the third word. So if this is the maxim he's trying to tell us about, is that bullet still in the magazine, remaining unfired, that left with his getaway? Is it on one of the other shell casings, but it burned off as it was fired and ejected? We don't know that yet.
Yeah, but two of the three, and as you say, would require just a very high level of deliberateness here. So what does that tell investigators as they are very much engaged in this manhunt 25, 26 hours later?
Well, it tells them, it gives them an answer and raises a question. The answer it gives them is, you have a killer who is...
Let's take a look at this timeline that they built up here. 6:15 a.m. yesterday. Suspect leaves 57th Street subway. 6:17 a.m. he's at a Starbucks because, before you shoot someone, you got to get a latte. And then around 6:44 a.m., he actually shoots Thompson. So this is all happening within a half an hour. In 30 minutes. He gets out of the subway, has a Starbucks, and then shoots the guy. And then jumps on a city bike in 30 minutes. That to me sounds like a professional.
Trying to send a message. The question is, what does the message really mean? What you can glean from it, if the target was carefully selected, the head of a major healthcare insurance entity is it directed at United Healthcare? Is it directed at that CEO? Or is this a killer who is targeting the insurance industry, which has caused everybody from hospital executives to insurance providers yesterday to start doubling and tripling the security around their top people?
Yeah, I was going to ask that, because if you have someone trying to send a message out there on those, which clearly they do, I mean, if you're going to write something on a shell case and you are trying to send a message there, you then have to take next steps to try to figure out how to protect people.
Well, that's right. And, my phone was ringing yesterday from heads of security and from security companies saying, what do we think about the targeting in this case? Do, executives have to worry? Where can we get the kind of increased security details in?
I should stop this. Why should they worry so much about their security? Maybe they should worry about paying their claims on time, accurately. There's a lot of corruption going on in the insurance industry. This is just the medical insurance. Just recently, because of that flood issue in the United States, right? And you had people losing their homes. Some of them were losing their farms because of the flood. Insurance companies don't want to really pay. So they'll find a way, here's some relief. Here's a $500 check. Meanwhile, they lost their home. It still has a mortgage. Insurance companies are they'll find ways to make sure that you aren't paid. And they got a whole slew of lawyers that do it.
Turning yesterday morning they're turning faster today.
All right, these developments keep on happening at a furious pace. John Miller, we're lucky to have you here. Please keep us posted throughout the next hour.
Thanks, John.
Kate?
And joining us right now is former U.S. Marshal John Muffler and former Boston Police Commissioner Ed Davis. Ed, let's start where John just left off, talking about the question of personal security. Some detail that we got from United Healthcare was that United Healthcare was aware of threats to top executives. Brian Thompson was never named specifically, but a source familiar with the company's security does tell CNN the leadership team at United Health Group is supported by an in-house security team, including at the New York conference. That Thompson's security detail was not with him yesterday morning. What does that mean? What does that add into this?
Well, it's very troubling. The provision of security personnel is really a risk and compliance question. Each of these corporations has a compliance and risk department. They should be having these conversations.
We're risk and compliance, and we're worried about our CEOs getting shot in New York when they're doing an investor meeting. But let's not look at some of the nefarious activities that the insurance companies are doing. No, we don't want to do that. Let's correct some of the corruption that's going on in the insurance companies. No, we don't want to do that. No. Let's just worry about our CEOs getting blown up in on the streets of Manhattan.
And if he does have a security function, he either said, I don't need it in New York. It's expensive to have a team travel with you and put them up. So sometimes executives say, I'll have a detail at my house, but I'm not going to have any protection while I'm traveling.
I'll tell you,
they live
that shooter, when he walked behind Thompson and was just very calm, and there was a woman, of course, with a coffee in her hand, a latte, walking by, and just kind of like, this person was very, very calm. Now, someone that is not professional would be all jittery, their adrenaline would be rushing, they wouldn't, they'd be shaking a little bit, they may have been a little bit confused or a little bit off on their target because of this woman. No, this guy totally ignored her and focused. This guy looked professional, in my humble opinion. All right, but he looked professional. He didn't even care about that woman that had the coffee to his right, and she escaped. Now, of course, she didn't care because she had to go to work with her latte. It's 6:44 and she has to be in the office at 7 o'clock. Who cares if someone got blown away on the street? Welcome to New York.
That nobody understands where they are. But this is a public meeting, a publicly advertised meeting, location and time. Everyone knows that he will be there. It's a very simple equation for someone stalking someone online and doing research to put together that this could be a good place. And notwithstanding the cameras, it's a very easy task to find them and then to do whatever it is that you want to do with them.
And John, how does this manhunt shift now as
Think
we
about
are
it.
past?
Think about, certain people are denied coverage and denied treatment because of their insurance company, and they die, or they get worse, or bills pile up because you thought the insurance company was going to pay, and then all of a sudden the insurance company's denying the payment, and they have financial problems, and they go bankrupt or lose their home or whatever. You don't know what the situation is. But to say that the insurance companies are all lily white, no, by far they're not. By far they're not. Now that doesn't warrant someone getting blown away in New York, right? Just because you're a CEO of an insurance company, you shouldn't be blown away. But the thing is that my understanding is there was some corruption that was going on, and there was investigations of corruption within the industry. This looked like a professional hit. I don't believe that it wasn't a professional hit. Now, why it's happening, that's left to interpretation. But this guy was very, very calm. Very calm.
the 24-hour mark since this guy's been on the run?
Well, I think they have great leads. I imagine in the next presser there'll be more information. Clearly they have a list of clues that they're running on and are aware of the direction he traveled and the way he did it. My assumption is that he was there a day or so, if not longer in advance, conducting pre-attack surveillance. So it'd be a good time for NYPD to look at those cameras in that location. Could be a time where he wasn't wearing a mask, a day of the shooting. So I think there's some good clues there. I think there's some understanding of warning behavior typologies that he's exhibiting.
I'm really, because everything looked new, I'm really sure that what was in that backpack was another jacket, right? So he runs the scene, finds an area, takes the jacket off, and then puts on a new jacket and walks away. And it's not hiding his face. Are you really going to be able to do some sort of telemetry, some sort of facial recognition with the coverings that he had in those videos? You're not going to be able to. This guy knew what he was doing. I'd be shocked if they find this guy. Shocked.
Fixation, pathway of violence that they can run on and look at as clues to where he may be and where he may be going.
I want you both also to weigh in on what John Miller was just reporting about the fact that law enforcement sources tell CNN the two words that were found on shell casings: delay and depose. Depose written on a shell casing from a round that was fired into the victim. Delay written on a live round that was not fired but believed to be ejected when the shooter, he appeared to be clearing a jam. And those words are really all over the internet, from people angry at the healthcare industry. Blogs, articles, in various combination, using these words as critical of the healthcare industry. John, what do you do with this? How do you help this try to narrow your search for who you could be looking for?
Well, obviously, there's just two words that they found, and I agree with John Miller that very likely there are other words in that magazine, but it's an indication, again, of that behavior leading up to the attack, and there's some giveaways there. So I think, again, looking at that type of leakage of the words he's using, many of school shooting attacks and other workplace violence attacks, there's leakage, and meaning that others in that person's environment are aware of such terminologies. And, those people who are watching CNN and other news media, they see that face, hear those words, thinking like, oh, he did make a post. I knew a guy made a post, or a family member, a loved one. So I think those are going to help those in that person's life, maybe report to law enforcement those pre-clues.
That is interesting. Ed, what do you think of that?
Well, John's exactly right. It's a great clue, and if someone has heard him use those words before and sees that picture, especially of his face in the Starbucks, they would be able to put two and two together and get in touch with law enforcement, hopefully. But the other thing is you have to also think about the fact that he may have been leaving more of a message. I think it's unusual that someone that well prepared and effective inadvertently dropped a cell phone at the scene. It sometimes takes a day or two to get into those phones. I'm wondering what messaging is on that cell phone. Is someone trying to explain themselves with a burner phone that might have one or two pages of information on it? That's something we have to look out for. And we also have to keep in mind that this could...
I lost the audio. What happened? That's interesting. Why did the audio die? Why?
Something we have to look out for. And we also have to keep in mind that this could be a track of the real motive. So you'll have to keep all options open in these
All right,
cases.
let me replay it.
Absolutely right.
Let me replay what was
I think it's unusual if someone that well prepared and effective inadvertently dropped a cell phone at the scene. It sometimes takes a day or two to get into those phones. I'm wondering what messaging is on that cell phone. Is someone trying to explain themselves in a...
Or maybe there is evidence of corruption of the insurance company or of Thomas or people related to Thomas that are part of Congress. Maybe there's some really important evidence, not of what he did, but of what the nefarious actors within the insurance company is doing. But let's not bring that up at CNN.
On a phone that might have 1 or 2 pages of information on it. That's something we have to look out for. And we also have to keep in mind that this could be a feint. It could be purposely putting detectives off the track of the real motive. So you'll have to keep all options open in these cases.
Absolutely right. John, do you assume he is no longer in Manhattan, or do you think he's more likely still in Manhattan?
I think he's gone.
These are great questions. Tracking fugitives, these can last, days to months. And
so last years.
It's really hard to tell at this point. I am very interested in looking at his travel out to Central Park on that bike that was GPS coordinated. And again, he's going to have pre-attack surveillance fingerprints, again, indicating where he may be now, that he may be held up somewhere to let this cool down, and then try to leave New York City, or maybe he's already exited New York City. But those are some really good clues for NYPD to track on. So who knows at this point?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Thank you both so much, as always. That is great.
When you have law enforcement that needs to use Reddit to find out what the meaning of certain shell cases are, I don't think that the law enforcement knows that much. This guy got away. There's no way they're gonna find him. There's no way they're gonna find him. I don't believe it. All right, let's go to BBC about the South Korean president being pushed out, being called to resign. That was a very weird thing that happened in South Korea, all right? The previous broadcast that I had, we were covering it in real time, what was going on, all right? And that was, there was martial law, and then the parliament voted down the martial law, and then he rescinded the martial law, and then the next day, there was a vote for pushing out the actual president, have him resign. So let's go to BBC and find out what is going on in South Korea.
People ask me all the time, Chris, if you could only take one supplement for the rest of your life, which one would it be? The answer is easy, redwood. You see, redwood is a powerful...
Get the latest on this from my colleague Steve Lai, who's in Seoul for us.
That commercial, all right? Trust me on this, all right? I know what I'm talking about because I've been doing this for a long time, since I was 16 years old, all right? There is no one supplement. There is no one supplement for proper health. It's all about stacking and having a theoretical framework to work on. And that theoretical framework for slowing down the aging process, having more longevity, having more vitality, and improving the different systems in your body, it's going to take a multi-pronged approach. Proper diet, proper exercise, proper supplementation, proper sleep, challenging your mind, balancing. You don't get that in just taking one supplement. It's a holistic approach. And then the supplements you take have to be stacked in a certain way, because you have to have a probiotic, and you have to bring down reactive oxygen species by taking antioxidants. You need cofactors for certain types of enzymes. There is no one supplement. If someone says there's one supplement, they don't know what they're talking about. They're total bullshit. They're total bullshit when it comes to health. That's why it's really important to pay attention to what I'm saying, because nobody is as comprehensive and as accurate on this. Trust me, all right? So when it comes to health, to mitigate problems, you have to have a multi-pronged approach. Proper diet, exercise, supplementation, sleep, train your mind. That means reading and writing. That means talking to people. Mindfulness. Some people, would call that meditation or spirituality, but some sort of mindfulness. Those are balancing exercises to activate that cerebellum. Proper supplementation. When you do all those things together, you're going to see major improvements than some person saying, the most important supplement to take is blah, blah, blah. There is no, because there's not one supplement. If that was the case, then your body would have evolved in such a way where there's only one need for one type of chemical. Obviously, that's not the case. You have so much biochemistry that's going on with feedback loops, positive and negative, with these different chemicals and how they metabolize. It's an orchestrated thing. It's very complex. It takes a lifetime to fully understand the biochemistry of how our body works. No one really knows for sure exactly all of the things that are going on. The feedback loops that are going on with just the immune system alone. We're nascent in our understanding of the immune system. Yet you have people out there that think that they understand it. You have agencies like the CDC and the FDA that think they understand the immune system. They don't. They really don't. And if your physician says that they really understand the immune system, I bet they don't. I bet most of them didn't take in-depth immunology. They covered it in their education. They don't have a strong in-depth understanding of the different feedbacks. So there is no one thing to take. It's about stacking. And it's about that theoretical framework of bringing down inflammation, soaking up, those free radicals, and neutralizing pathogens. And by doing that, you're strengthening up your immune system to allow for self-healing. There's a self-healing process that takes place. But it takes a lot of different things to stack to do that. You got to take the turmerics and ashwagandhas to bring down the inflammation. You got to take strong antioxidants like ubiquinol and C60 to soak up those free radicals. You have to take things that will neutralize pathogens, that are antiviral or antifungal or antibacterial. And then you need these cofactors that are in multivitamins. There's no one thing. There's not one chemical or one thing to take. It's so asinine to think that. Obviously, they don't have an understanding. All right, with that said, let me do a product plug. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the deodorant bars. I've partnered up with Rainbow Herbals, and we've created these deodorant bars in citrus and also in peppermint, lavender, and tea tree. These are made from essential oils from the Himalayas. Very high quality ingredients. There's no aluminum, no baking soda in these, and it's a dual purpose product. What it does, you use it as a deodorant, but also it helps to detoxify your body. So it's for males and females. Get a couple bars for your household. Get it either in citrus or in peppermint, lavender, and tea tree. Very high quality deodorants. Way better than any of the crap that you're buying at the store. Because those are full of chemicals that you really don't want. All right? All natural, dual purpose, the deodorant, and it helps to detoxify your body. Go to my store and get the deodorant either in citrus or in peppermint, lavender, and tea tree. It's for males and females. And it helps support the work I do. It helps support your health. It helps to detoxify your body, and so you don't smell. You don't want to be a smelly person, all right? So please, go to my store, get the high quality deodorants made from essential oils from the Himalayas. Now, where are you gonna get that? You think Procter & Gamble gets their ingredients from the Himalayas? I don't think so. I really don't think so. All right, what's going on in South Korea?
Yeah, thanks, Lakshmi. It's just about 7 o'clock here in Seoul. The sun's gone down, the working day has come to an end, but the protests have continued throughout the day. Various shapes and sizes, different interest groups and political parties as well have been protesting and making their voice heard with regards to what has happened here in the last 48 hours following that decree for martial law, even though now it's been rescinded. Now, there is a candlelight vigil that's happening this evening as well, and now that the working day has ended, we are expecting those participants making their way to these rallies to increase. Worth noting as well that there have been some rallies in support of President Yoon as well. Now, the big talking point at the moment, though, in the last few hours is to do with the impeachment vote, which is going to be taking place on Saturday at 7 p.m. Now, those opposition party members that are pushing for this impeachment to happen, they have 192 members of parliament that they have to vote on it, but they need to reach 200 votes. There are 300 members of parliament in the General Assembly, so they need, in effect, 8 defectors from the ruling party to come over to join their side to push the motion for this impeachment to go through. You mentioned earlier that the leading party, the PPP, the incumbent party, have said that they're all voting together in a block to block it, and if that's the case, then that is what will happen. But we have heard in the last few hours that 5 MPs from the ruling party have now come out to say that they are undecided and that they haven't decided yet which way they're going to vote. So could there be some rift in the leading party here, which could open the door perhaps for this impeachment motion?
I'll tell you, there's definitely some infighting going on within South Korea. You know, I'm shocked that they aren't more forceful with the impeachment. So that means that, you know, there's a fight between this, I don't know, pro-North Korean faction. You know, to me, it seemed as though the president was trying to fight corruption charges. He's up for corruption, all right? His wife seems to have been doing things that she shouldn't have been doing, so there was investigation. So it seemed as though he was blaming North Korean infiltration within Parliament, and said, "Well, we're going to have martial law." The Parliament on both sides, his party and the other party, decided to overrule the martial law, so the president had to rescind. And then you would have thought that the solidarity of the two parties would push for an impeachment. And that's what I thought was going to happen. And they're still dragging their feet on that. So there must be some really serious issue between the two parties that are in Parliament. Now, I don't know the names of the parties. I don't follow South Korea that much. But there is definitely a struggle between the two parties. Now, I still think that the president was trying to use, we'll quote, martial law and some sort of, you know, crazy instability in the country to try to kick the can down the road for the investigation on his wife. It seemed very a bad idea to do. It seemed to me that, you know, it would have been just better to step down than to have the country go into chaos. I'm not so concerned so much about the president being impeached. There is some stress in the currency market between the Korean won, the South Korean won, and the USD. But the other currencies around the world don't seem to be phased at all. It's obviously didn't phase the equity market in the United States or the VIX index. So, you know, it seemed to be like a nothing burger in terms of international. What I am concerned about is what's going on between the alliance between the United States and its allied partners in the Pacific region to circumvent China if China attacks Taiwan. Is South Korea strong to be able to maintain that strategic deterrence. That's in question. Another really important thing that is to kind of glean from this, how stable or unstable is the DMZ? We've been told since I was a kid that everything is so super armed up, and that if there were just one little incident could happen, Seoul would be leveled because of the armaments that have built up on both sides, you know, on the South Korean side and the North Korean side. That Seoul would be leveled. How strong is the North Koreans? I don't think they are. I don't think they are. I think the United States is being told that the DMZ is so wired up that flash of war could start at any moment. Why didn't it happen during this time? Why didn't it happen during the crisis in 2020? Why didn't it happen when Kim Jong-un was not getting the attention that he wanted from the Biden administration? So he just starts launching rockets. I don't think North Korea is as strong. I really don't. When you look at pictures of their military, they don't look like they're getting fed very well. Do you think they would be able to sustain a war effort? Probably not. So why are we being told where we need to deploy 20, 30,000 troops in the region? And I understand that we need troops in the region for deterrence against China. But do we really need deterrence against North Korea? Probably not. We're being sold a bill of goods that doesn't exist. That's the bigger issue here.
That they will need to find 3 more votes before that happens. Now, I spoke earlier to Dr. Yok-Yong-in, a lecturer in Korean Studies at the University of Sheffield, about this whole impeachment process.
As you already briefed, so once the proposal is supported by at least 2/3 of the National Assembly, the Parliament representatives, then the resolution is set, and then the president immediately loses his power from his office. But then it doesn't mean that the whole impeachment process will be completed. So after the president loses his power, once the resolution, if the resolution is set by the majority vote, then Prime Minister will automatically be a deputy of the president. But then we are seeing that the Prime Minister was also might have been part of the cabinet review of the first martial law decree declaration before it was announced. Once the National Assembly members pass the proposal of impeachment, then it is brought to the Constitutional of Korea. So the Constitutional of Korea will review the National Assembly's resolution for impeachment. The Constitutional of Korea judges, they have to, in legal...
Just take a 50,000-foot level on this and what she's saying. You don't have to be a lawyer. You would think that what's going on with their constitution and what's going on in their parliament, with the president, is chaotic. Why isn't North Korea deciding to make a move? Why? Because North Korea can't. That's why. And we're being sold a bill of goods about how dangerous North Korea is. And we're afraid to do anything about it.
We call it CITE, and it means to uphold the National Assembly's resolution. Then it is only then the impeachment process is completely completed in legal process.
This right here, what is going on? What's going on with the impeachment? The guy probably should be impeached. He shouldn't have created martial law against his countrymen, right? But, you know, especially because his wife is corrupt. But the thing is that this is a data point that shows that the United States citizen has been sold a bill of goods about North Korea. I know this issue is South Korea, but you can understand dynamics of things that are tangential. Instability politically means instability militarily in South Korea. Why didn't North Korea make a move on the DMZ. They didn't, because they can't. And we've been told just keep on spending billions of dollars in defense in that region over the decades because of a flare-up or the potential flare-up. We could probably go in and take out the North Korean regime, the whole family, in 10 hours. Knock it all out. 10 hours. Why isn't the United States willing to do that? Why? Why? Because you make more money by pretending that there's a war or pretending that there's a conflict. You make more money through deterrence than actually winning a war.
If the legal impeachment process is completed, then within 60 days from then, the election to elect a new president must take place within 60 days.
Yeah, so just to remind you that that vote, that crucial impeachment vote, is set to take place at 7 p.m. on Saturday. They could have had this vote take place in the early hours of Friday, but there was some concern that they weren't going to be able to get the numbers. So that's what they've been trying to do in the intervening time between now and when the vote takes place. We've just said.
But if they couldn't get it in the middle of the crisis, where the emotions were so high against the president, why would you be able to get the votes days later? Because that emotion has kind of dissipated. Who knows? For the ones that are watching on either channel, right, you can join X Spaces and you can do a call-in where you just raise your hand, you could ask a question or tell me what you think. This is supposed to be interactive. For the ones that are listening on X Spaces, if you want to ask a question, please do. The whole idea is to have an interactive session here about the news. So let me drop into Bloomberg and find out what's going on in the markets. But before I do that, I just want to mention that the equity market for the S&P 500 is trading at 6,081, and the BITO ETF for Bitcoin long has gone down a little bit, and it's only up from the open at about 80 cents. Okay, what's going on in Bloomberg?
Next. Inauguration Day is January 20th, 2025. Is Fed Chairman Jay Powell going to receive a phone call from the White House, do you think, on that day?
I don't think so. First of all, Powell obviously at his last press conference drew a kind of bright line in the sand, and even if new President Trump wants to get rid of him, it's not at all clear legally he can do so. So it would be probably to start a big fight. That, you know, what's the point? Because Powell only has about 18 months left, and then
also he's cutting, right?
Yeah,
the whole point is Donald Trump wants to be cut.
Just about to say that. It's the other thing is like the question is he going to keep cutting? Now, if he pauses too much, maybe that's going to make Trump unhappy. But you know, they're going in the right direction for the former real estate developer.
So for the jobs number tomorrow, what's my weather distortion thing I have to watch out for? Are we going to get payback from the previous month when there were storm disruptions? Like, how do I need to read the tea leaves from this number tomorrow?
It's going to be a little difficult. We got some state data for October that suggested in the 5 states hit by the hurricane that there were some significant job losses. Those don't compare exactly to the national number, so we can't just add them up and say that's the number. We're hoping that maybe we get some clarity from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. But basically anything that you saw over what had been the average of around 175 to 180 or so in the prior months, that's going to be your baseline number, and anything above that is probably payback. But the Fed's going to look past that for all those reasons, and they're going to look at the unemployment rate, which isn't really affected by any of those things. So as long as it doesn't change significantly, then it shouldn't change forecasts for what the Fed's going to do.
Can I just, you were talking about weather, bring what I think is a weather-related story This is from the Federal Aviation Administration. Newark Airport is going to close between 12:15 to 6 p.m. today.
Why?
I couldn't believe Paul didn't bring this up. I saw the headline and I'm like,
There was I know Rob Carrollin, our
They're
meteorologist.
decorating for the birthday party.
oh yes, there it is, there it
A
is.
wind advisory in effect, this morning up to 10 p.m.
I just saw an update on that, 40-mile-an-hour winds, which is not what you want to fly through. And the advisory said from Patterson to Park Slope.
I live in Park Slope. And I should point out that this is real because Mike secretly, maybe not so secretly, really wants to be a meteorologist. Like every time there's a raindrop, he like sends me maps and weather things and listens to like local news. Like he's all over it. He's got a buddy he calls and he talks to him about it. Just, I'm outing you, Mike, on your meteorologist dreams.
All right, before we go to Fox News, I want to play what Bezos had to say about Trump. Please help support my work by helping support your health. Get the supplements I offer, follow the protocol that I do, all right? I take a lot of supplements. You don't have to take all the supplements. Some people can't afford all the supplements. But the thing is that, if you follow my lead, you can improve your systems, improve your health, your longevity, your vitality. It's really important. Take charge of your health. And a great way to do that is to get my probiotic. Now I have a powdered probiotic that I take with my lunch every day, but you can also get the VeggieCap probiotic. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the powdered version or the VeggieCap probiotic. Probiotics are really important to help improve your metabolism, improve absorbing nutrients, lowering down inflammation, improve the communication between your gut and your brain. A lot of people don't realize depression is associated with poor gut health. Mental acuity is associated with poor gut health. So, if you want to improve your gut health and that communication between your gut and your liver. All right, so please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the probiotic, powdered version or the VeggieCap version, and improve your gut health. All right? A lot of people don't realize health starts at the gut. All right? If you don't have a good gut biome, you're not going to have good skin. You're not going to have energy levels right. Your hair is going to be subpar. Your nails will be subpar. Your metabolism will be subpar. Your mental acuity will be subpar if you have poor gut health. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. And since we're talking about the GI system, as we get older, our pancreas doesn't work as well. We need to lessen the load on our pancreas. Our pancreas creates enzymes to break up carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids. So take digestive enzyme complex to lessen the load on your pancreas so you can break down those carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids. In addition, this has proteolytic enzymes to break up glycoproteins. Super important to break up certain types of S proteins during 2020. And that's the reason why I told you to take this. In addition, this has bromelain in it. It's fibrinolytic. That means that this also helps to break up clots. It's dual purpose. Again, like I said, I'm the most comprehensive on this. So please, go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the digestive enzyme complex, reduce the load on your pancreas. If you work out, if you're an athlete or semi-pro or, a recreational athlete and you want to refuel your body quicker and recover quicker, also take the digestive enzyme complex to be able to break up those nutrients and to absorb them. So please, go to my store, get the digestive enzyme complex. This is a very high quality product. It's the-studio-reykjavik.com. Just a reminder, please use the discount 5, all caps. Discount, all caps, right? Discount, and then the number 5. You get $5 off, all right? It's been there, that discount has been there for 5 years. So please, use it to help reduce the cost of the shipping, all right? I want to get you the products in your hands, use them, improve your health. All right, Jeff Bezos, what does he have to say?
Today's actually a really exciting day because we got to unfold one of these units right in front of a crowd of people.
More and more, as we switch gears now, you see more and more people who were not on the Trump train the first time around, didn't want to accept it, perhaps jealous of it. The guy who owns the Washington Post was one of them, a big critic of Trump, making sarcastic comments about Trump for the first 4 years. Trump took aim at Jeff Bezos, too, and his own Washington Post. You got the sense things would be different, in my view, when Jeff Bezos told people at Washington Post, we're not going to endorse a candidate leading up to the election. He had a bunch of people quit because of that. Can you believe a guy losing $70 million a year to keep them employed would get the people get so upset they would quit on him? But he didn't. So you hear Jamie Dimon's been talking to the president at J.P. Morgan for weeks. He used to be somewhat of a critic. And then you see Elon Musk, who had walked off the president's business council after what he thought was a controversy in Charlottesville. He is now firmly on board, and those two are bros, it seems. Now he's working for him. The latest one to come aboard is Jeff Bezos of Amazon, saying nice things yesterday.
Yeah, he said he was optimistic about working with a calmer Trump, and he can help him reduce regulation. Listen to what else he said.
If we're talking about Trump, I think it's very interesting. I'm actually very optimistic this time around that we're going to see. I'm very hopeful about this. He seems to have a lot of energy around reducing regulation. And my point of view, if I can help him do that, I'm going to help him. Because we do have too much regulation in this country. This country is so set up to grow.
He's absolutely right. And so later today at 10 o'clock this morning, the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, which is being headed up by Vivek Ramaswamy and also Elon Musk, they're going to go to the U.S. Senate. Joni Ernst is going to be hosting them this morning. And then this afternoon at 3 o'clock, they're going to be meeting with both houses at the behest of Speaker Mike Johnson. And what's interesting about this, and this kind of dovetails, Brian, to your point about how some people who were not Trump fans in the first Trump administration are now coming around. This includes a bunch of Democrats. There's a thing now in the House called the DOGE caucus. And there are actually a number of Democrats who are involved. For instance, you got Jared Moskowitz. He's on board. Florida. He would like to make the Social Security and FEMA independent agencies that would report directly to the White House. Then you got Ro Khanna and Bernie Sanders. They would like to cut government spending, particularly at the Pentagon, because, and the argument they make is, look, they failed like 8 audits and stuff like that. And the brilliant thing about the DOGE caucus is these people who may be on the other side of the political aisle, they can be on TV, they can talk about government waste, they never have to take an official vote. So in other words, it sure looks like they want to cut stuff, but they're not really cutting.
Yeah, but listen to the elites in their comments. Jeff Bezos said, oh, he's for deregulation. Okay, he was the first time as well. The only difference is that you have a political mandate that just happened. You have the popular vote and electoral college. He won every single swing state. And so I think now these people, you got even Mark Zuckerberg that's saying that he likes Trump now, wants to have conversations with him. He did have the conversation. He thought that it was fantastic what Trump did after the attempted assassination. He goes, he's never seen anything so courageous in his life. But they have the political cover now. They didn't have the will before. I'm not going to condemn them for coming on board, but I do feel like there are some Johnny-come-latelys right now that the American people have finally spoken. There's a lot of us out here that just want a free market system, the border to be secure.
I know what you're saying.
And now they're on board.
At least acknowledge you're wrong.
You're wrong.
Like Mark Zuckerberg, if you want to impress me, do what Elon Musk did. Let journalists go in to the Twitter files, go into the Facebook files. I want to find out exactly what you were up to in 2016 and through the pandemic. Expose what happened. Maybe you didn't know, maybe you did know, and find out who was really.
The thing is, I was censored on Facebook when trying to inform the public about what happened, during the crisis and how to mitigate it. And I still have to play, whack-a-mole with YouTube. But, the thing is, I'm still alive, still kicking. As Steve Jobs says, I'm vertical, and And yeah, I'm helping people, all right? But the thing is that it was people like Zuckerberg that was towing the line of the national security state to censor people from informing the public on what was really going on during the crisis. And some agencies, some media outlets were demonizing people that were covering this. And the reality is that I wasn't wrong. I was 100% right. 100%. I said that there was a crisis. It involved the way, it involved man-made things that were in a laboratory, that were released on purpose, that caused harm. Released on purpose, all right? And it wasn't the first one. There were actually 3 that were released on purpose. So, but the thing is that, and then I also warned, the treatments and, the inoculations and the problems with unproven technologies, unproven biotechnologies that ends up activating human line 1, that ends up integrating into genomes. Talked about AIDS-like syndrome and how it's affecting the immune system. Talked about turbo cancer. Oh, it's up. It's up by a lot. Autoimmune disease. And I warned the public, you got to get to the root cause. And the root cause is a runaway national security state doing things in a laboratory they shouldn't be doing. But too many people are focused on inoculations. Just stop the inoculations. That's not the root cause. The root cause is what they're doing in the laboratory. And it was Zuckerberg that censored me, because he was towing the line for the national security state. It's not a CCP virus. It's a USA CCP virus. I am 100% positive on that.
The pandemic.
If you just look at the umbrella effect of this, though, it's wonderful for our country. We have President Trump, and then you have all of these leaders, these billionaires that are behind him, that really impact all of our lives. Jeff Bezos,
Right.
I mean, we all order on Amazon. Monday, I spent more than I should have for cyber, but I saved a lot.
Yeah, she's going to show her bills a little bit later next hour.
No, but I've gotten a lot accomplished.
Let me interject. I know I'm going off on a tangent, but it's my show and I can go on a tangent. There's a lot of people talking about prion disease. It's not prion disease, it's amyloidosis. I'm real sure about that. Amyloidosis, not prion. And oh, by the way, you can get it both ways. Through the infection and the inoculation.
But yeah, my point is Bezos is on board. You have Elon Musk, who is the wealthiest man in the world, right? With Tesla. And then we have Mark Zuckerberg. We're all on Instagram. We're all on Facebook. So I'm just excited about the fact that we're all working together. Absolutely.
Well, it is unity, but I'm always skeptical. They're doing it because it's their hides. Mark Zuckerberg, now that Donald Trump is in charge of the federal government for the most part, Mark Zuckerberg doesn't want Donald Trump to regulate social media. He doesn't want them to open up and take a really good look at a lot of this stuff. And that's why a lot of these people who suddenly, we didn't hear a lot of them say anything before Trump was elected.
Yeah, exactly, because they're afraid that it's going to be exposed. The Smith Modernization Act was being implemented at the social media level, where you had agencies within the government dictating what could be posted, which should be posted. So what that does is it creates psyops, and it also censors real information that people needed to save their life, all right? And they have also infiltrated the mainstream media. So they've infiltrated the MSNBCs and the CNNs, and have guests on pushing an agenda for the national security state, But then you have this whole new thing in the United States and worldwide, social media, which is more chaotic, decentralized, but they paid Facebook, national security state, paid Facebook to have employees to censor people. And that was happening at Twitter too. Interesting. Now they're all pro-Trump. Because Zuckerberg doesn't want to hang from a tree. Because guess what? When you look at this at a metaphysical level, he was complicit in the deaths of many people worldwide. He is complicit with more than 1 million deaths just in America, just in the United States, because he towed the line of the national security state. And I'm not speaking in hyperbole. This is what happened. But here's the sad thing.
Because
here's the sad thing when you look at this from a metaphysical level. Why is he blessed with so much wealth and so much power with Facebook, Meta, whatever you want to call it? All right, he's been blessed, yet he has caused so much harm. Is it fair for people to be cursed trying to do the right thing? And other people are blessed for towing the line for the national security state that actually harm people? Where is the cosmic justice of this? And I, think about this quite a bit. Where's the justice in this? Where people were trying to do the right thing to help, while others were suppressing information that would save lives. Why should Zuckerberg be blessed? Why? Why?
Combined, a kiss in the ring.
they are indeed, and you know what? If that's what it takes for Donald Trump to get them on board, looks like they're on board.
Well, they're successful businessmen. Maybe they'll get our country in order and cut out some of this waste.
Yeah, but also with the lack of regulation needs integrity. I don't want to just drop the regulation and then let these guys go to town. I hope they do it with integrity because those regulations will come right back.
Speaker Johnson said he would like to axe PBS and Planned Parenthood when he was on with Martha.
Right.
So we'll see.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And
All right.
click here.
So we'll go back to Bloomberg. They're on a commercial break. Just to give an update on the market, the S&P 500 is trading at 6,079, almost 6,080. VIX is trading at 1362, and the Euro USD is at 1.056. What is interesting to take a look at is the USD yen trade is at 150.2. So dollar is strengthening against the yen, but weakening against the euro. The oil trade is at about 68.80 a barrel. Please help support my work by helping support your health. All right, go to the store and get the supplements. Lignans is a powder. You mix it with your food or filtered water or a smoothie, and this will help with your immune system. This will bring down inflammation, and it's an antioxidant, so it's going to soak up free radicals. Really important. So please, boost up your immune system. We've gone through a tumultuous period in 2020, and a lot of people's immune systems are disrupted. It is important, I can't say this enough, it is important to boost up your immune system. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the lignans, bring down inflammation, and soak up those free radicals. In addition, this helps with your endocrine system for males and females. Multivitamin. This multivitamin is easy to digest. You need multivitamins because they're cofactors for enzymatic activity. That means that if you have the cofactors, your enzymes are going to work properly in your cells and your cells are going to function better. Go to my store, get this multivitamin, add it to your daily routine and add it to your stack. This will move you along towards improving your health. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Now people would say, well, what's in it? Well, I don't have time to read everything that's in this multivitamin. So go to the store, take a look at the label, and you'll know. But it's most of the vitamins that you would need for your daily, your daily dose. So please go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Good night formula, really important. Good night's sleep is important for your health. If you go into REM cycles, 3 REM cycles a night on a regular basis, night after night, right? Continue, and this is a common thing for you, then through being in deep sleep and REM cycle sleep, you can detoxify your central nervous system. You're going to be able to consolidate memory, and you're going to be well rested. But if you're chronically deprived of REM sleep, you're going to build up toxins. You're going to increase your chances of early onset of dementia. You'll have less energy. You'll weaken your immune system. And you won't be consolidating your memory. So you're going to be forgetting stuff. You're going to have mental clarity issues. You don't want that. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the Good Night formula. It's going to get you into 3 cycles of REM sleep and deep sleep. You'll be well rested. You're going to be detoxifying your body and consolidating memory. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the Good Night formula. All right, let's go to Bloomberg. They're talking with the commodity
and adoption. So price must go up over time. It's just going to have these nuances. But right now, it's about the major shift in this country from being really pushing against cryptos, as we saw with Gary Gensler, now shifting over to a whole government that's so much positive cryptos. And you see things like the potential for us to be, the USA to actually sell gold and buy Bitcoin, which I think is a bit wild, but that was a Bloomberg story that really hit the tape this weekend. So, and then quotes from Chairman Powell pointing out it's digital gold, and even from President Putin, there's nothing that can really stop it. It's the animal spirits right now, but it's the key thing I'm worried about is now that we have it into the mainstream and all the ETFs people are buying and adding to the portfolio, we still haven't seen the big test of how Bitcoin responds after President Trump has been elected, when the stock market goes down. And at some point it will, and it hasn't been through that. So right now, I think what you're seeing is a lot of people are adding it to they're getting off zero, but it's still a highly speculative digital asset, basically trades about 3 times the volatility of S&P 500 and gold.
Oh, wow. I did not know that stat. When we have the optimism from Paul Atkins now...
Again, like I said, I don't believe that Bitcoin will supersede a digital dollar. Because if Bitcoin was used as a real currency for the country, it would basically relinquish power by the Federal Reserve, right? The Federal Reserve is going to relinquish power, right? There'd be a war before that happens. So it's a virtual commodity with very high volatility, all right? Now, that doesn't mean you can't make money in it because there's volatility. But to say that it's a storage of value for economic activity, you can't. It can't be. Think about this for a second. If you are a retailer and you are transacting in Bitcoin, all right, because of the volatility, what's the price of the pizza? What's the price of the hamburger? What's the price of your groceries? If you are selling these things, what price do you put up there? Because there's volatility in the currency. Relatively, there's low volatility of the currency, of the dollar or the euro. Yes, it goes up and down, right? But there's not that much volatility compared to these cryptocurrencies. So if you are selling goods or services, what price do you give them? It'll be always up and down. So it can't be used as for economic activity. It's a speculative virtual commodity. That's what it is. Now again, you can make money on it, but you could lose lots of money on it. And I've been warning people, you gotta pay attention to your risk. If you are risk averse, don't do it. If you want to take risk, you can, but assume that it's gonna be very volatile and it's gonna be up and down, right? So now, right now, you got money flows going into ETFs that are helping to boost up the psychological trend of Bitcoin. But it's psychological. Look around. Is anyone transacting in Bitcoin? No. So people think, well, I can make money by putting it in Bitcoin. Well, you can lose a lot of money too. It's not going to be the currency of the future. Digital currency is going to happen. A digital dollar is going to happen. It's going to ride on this whole blockchain kind of thing, this blockchain backbone. But the money supply is going to be dictated by the Treasury and the Federal Reserve, not some algorithm for Bitcoin. So just pay attention to what you're getting into. If things go up and down, or even if it just goes up and it climbs rapidly, that's not economically stable. That's not an economically, you can't transact in that currency. Because what's the currency? The currency just went up day over day. Well, what price do you put on the can of soup at the grocery store? Oh, so stable currency is how a healthy economy works. Not an rapidly appreciating currency. A rapid appreciating currency is actually deflationary. A rapidly devaluing of a currency is inflationary. Oh, make sure you understand what you're getting into.
Though with the business flash, and for that, we go to John Tucker.
All right, slightly risk off today as investors wait for tomorrow's all-important jobs report for any indication about the future path of interest rate policy from the Federal Reserve. Some of the airlines getting a boost today. American Airlines jumping, raising its profit expectations for the final months of the year. Right now, shares of American Airlines 13.4% higher. The booze maker Brown-Forman, those shares rising over 8%. The company reported earnings per share and organic sales for the second quarter. That beat the consensus estimates. And then Dollar General shares, they're gaining. Analysts highlighting the discount retailers better than feared. Third quarter comp sales and the gross margin there as well. And meantime, David Leibowitz at JP Morgan Investment Management says, you know what, a number of factors have shifted him now away from fixed income and more into stocks.
Deregulation, tax cuts, so on and so forth. We wanted to lean more a little into the equity side, one where valuations are more attractive, than the Mag 6, but also where we think there will be a direct benefit from some of the policies that will come through starting next year.
Right now, the S&P 500 just 5 points lower, 6,081 after yesterday's record close. The Dow 76 points lower. That's down about 0.2%. The Nasdaq 133 points lower. That is down about 0.1%. Let me just give you an update on the story that we've been following since yesterday. This is the shooting in Midtown. ABC says police appear to be closing in on the identity of the suspect who gunned down United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. They've sought a search warrant for a location in New York City where they believe the suspect may have been staying. ABC also says police now have a pretty good sense of who the shooter is. They're still looking for him. He did leave clues at this scene. The words "delay to polls" written on a shell casing and a live round recovered in front of the New York Hilton Midtown. So that's all we know at this point. And we check the markets and other news for you all day long right here on Bloomberg Radio. I'm John Tucker, and that is your Bloomberg Business Flash. Alex and Paul.
All right, John Tucker, thank you so much. We appreciate that. Alex Steele, Paul Sweeney, we're live here in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio. We're streaming live on YouTube as well. So head over to youtube.com, search Bloomberg Podcast. As John was just reporting, a little bit of a pullback here in the equity markets. Nothing to write home about. Yields a little bit higher here. Let's check in with Vince Signorello. He covers all these markets for Bloomberg News. Talks to a lot of the traders out there on the street, getting a sense of what's moving markets here. Hey, Vince, what are you seeing over the last several days in markets here?
You know, I think we're just seeing some waffling, as you mentioned, going into the jobs numbers tomorrow. There's obviously a great deal of uncertainty. The Fed has moved away from the labor market a little bit. It's pushed it more to the back burner. Inflation is a little bit more key, I think, at this point. They're just hell-bent on getting back to their 2% neutral rate. But I think more and more when you talk to traders, the idea of 2% seems a little bit out of reach with a $36 trillion national debt. I think that the neutral rate on this, I think people believe neutral rate's a lot higher, more like 3 to 3.5. And they're probably a lot closer to it than maybe they think. And with PCE stabilizing and even coming up a little higher in the last few readings, I'm not so sure how much more the Fed can go. And I think traders are in the same boat. It's not going to be the Fed that carries us going into 2025. It's going to have to be earnings. And that's basically what people are looking at.
All right, let's talk about earnings then. Individual companies. What has been some of your takeaways or standouts that you're paying attention to today?
Yeah, I mean, it's tech. Look at Salesforce. The question, I think, going into 2025, look, we've had it in 2024. We're up 20-25%. It's not what has happened, but what's going to happen. Can tech continue? There's been talk about, there's going to be some major depreciation write-offs that are going to hurt earnings. That was a Barclays take about a month ago. Will tech be able to get the returns from the investment they're putting forward? And, realistically, that more or less that's a 3 to 5 year period. So not so sure 2025 earnings are going to be able to keep pace with 2024. So might be a little bit of a headwind going into next year.
Hey, Vince, we're keeping a close tabs on what's happening over there in France, and we've seen some weakness in the euro, but it seems to have recovered here and kind of steadied here. What are you hearing from some of the folks in the currency markets?
It's the response, and I heard you mention that there's going to be an interview with Le Pen later with Francine. It's going to be interesting to see what she has to say, because the response so far from Le Pen has been cordial, for lack of a better word. Macron doesn't need to resign. They're going to pick a new PM. We're likely to hear about that later tonight. Macron is supposed to speak, I believe, at 8 p.m. France time, European time. And so we'll get an idea what's going there. But there's not been this sort of tit for tat fight between the left and the right that markets had anticipated with the fall of the French government. So it's going smoothly, so no one's really upset about it.
In Vince's former life, he used to trade FX, so he's still a recovering FX trader on that end. But I did want to ask and tie it into equities too, because I feel like U.S. exceptionalism, I can't find a really strong argument against it when it comes to the equity market, and I'm wondering if that continues in the FX market as well.
So here's the thing. The dollar's bid. It's going to stay bid, I think, for a little while. It's down a little bit today, but nothing substantial. The problem with tariffs is, in the long run, it substantially hurts the currency. So depending upon Trump's take, whether this is just a little bit of fear-mongering, just trying to gain some leverage in negotiation on his part, or if tariffs really become a major play, it's eventually going to hurt the dollar. And there's quiet talk yesterday. It's not made a lot of headlines. His pick by Navarro as a trade advisor could have very substantial implications next year as to what that tariff situation looks like, in particular for China's offshore currency, and what that means for basically import-export prices next year. Could be very detrimental.
All right, Vince, thanks so much for joining us. Vince Signorello, Bloomberg macro strategist for Bloomberg News, joining us via Zoom from the home.
If it was potentially so detrimental, why is equities going up? I'm telling you, the Trump trade is going to carry on for a while. All right, There's going to be a little bit of a hiccup with a little bit of a profit taking, maybe a 10% pullback, but it's going to continue to rally. This is kind of we're in a sweet spot right now. I want to go to Fox talking about Kash Patel potentially becoming the FBI director. I support Kash Patel. I think that he would be a great FBI director. But before I do that, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Like I said, get a good probiotic. This one is the powdered version. The one I showed earlier was the veggie cap version. I use this version. I mix it with my hummus every day. For lunch, it's a great way to take a probiotic. You can mix it with water, filtered water, mix it in a smoothie. It's up to you, right? I prefer to mix it with hummus. You can mix it with yogurt, whatever. So please go to my store, get the powdered probiotic. It's a great way to take the probiotic. And you get all those benefits like I mentioned earlier. Vitamin B complex, really important. The first few B vitamins help with your mitochondrial health, with the electron transport chain. That's where you build up most of your ATP, your energy source. Vitamin B complex also helps with your red blood cells. It helps with your neurons. When you get older, you need to improve your neural health. And a great way to do that is to take vitamin B complex. So please, go to my store, get the vitamin B complex, boost up those energy levels, have better cellular metabolism, and improve the health of your neurons. And immune system, boost up your immune system. Take vitamin C every day, all right? You don't want a bad immune system, right? But vitamin C also helps with your skin. It cross-links with collagen. So go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the vitamin C, take it with filtered water, helps with your immune system, helps your skin, right? By cross-linking with collagen. Go to the store and get the collagen too, right? It's a great way to improve your joints, your skin, your bones. So please, go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the vitamin C, boost up your immune system, and cross-link with collagen. It's dual purpose. So with that, I want to go and review what Fox Business was talking about Kash Patel.
This toothbrush isn't for everyone. We know buying a toothbrush isn't easy, especially when every model looks the same and tells you features like 6 brushing modes, AI.
Well, welcome back to the show. Great pleasure, Senator Mike Lee of the great state of Utah. Senator Lee, thank you, sir. Happy holidays and all the rest of it. I just want to start, I'm very concerned, maybe I shouldn't be, Kash Patel as the FBI director. I think the FBI needs major house cleaning. We've got to clean these stables of corruption. And I just want to get your thinking about how Kash Patel looks for confirmation.
Look, I think he's in good shape. In my view, Larry, there is not a good reason for any senator, Democrat or Republican, to oppose Kash Patel. He's prosecuted more cases than Kamala Harris ever did. Now, the media obsessively trashes Kash Patel while ignoring the entire Biden family enterprise. And an outsider like Kash, with his unique blend of experience, represents an intriguing candidate for spearheading reform that's badly needed inside the FBI. So I look forward to voting for him enthusiastically. I encourage all of my colleagues, Republicans and Democrats alike, to do the same.
Yeah, I personally, I'm not in this process this year, but personally I didn't even want the FBI to do any vetting. I've lost confidence in the leadership of the FBI, but apparently the Senate will let the FBI do some vetting. But Kash Patel is a guy, I agree with you, he's had so many positions, he's a strong guy, he's a knowledgeable guy, and I can't imagine voting against him. Now the other one, Senator Lee, I want to ask you about.
Before we leave Kash, though, I just want to say that one of the reasons they hate him is because of his involvement in uncovering the Russiagate hoax.
Yes.
That positions him uniquely to address the political biases within the FBI. And I think that's exactly why they hate him. Now, a lot of the
there needs to be a major restructuring of the national security state, a restructuring of the FBI, restructuring of the CIA, restructuring of the NSA, the TSA, Homeland Security, because they were eroding the constitutional freedoms of American citizens. And not only that, they promulgate this never-ending emergency power that happened right after 9/11. Now, I'm a little concerned about what's going on in Syria. Is this another, chance for them to gain emergency power? I'm concerned about tactical nukes that go off in European theater. Is that a means for the national security state to try to get more power? Possible. I don't trust them. Never have, never will. Especially with what they did to the American citizens during the crisis of 2020. And then, the demonization of people that voted for Trump or voted for the Republican Party. The demonization of individuals wanting to protect constitutional freedoms. The demonization of people that wanted to have autonomy over their body and not be dictated by HHS on what they should be doing. Yeah, the deep state needs to be restructured.
The hate directed toward him is sort of broad invective. But what they're really getting at is they don't like the fact that he's onto them. And that's exactly why we need him in there.
Yeah, that's a great point. He blew the whistle on the Russian hoax. He blew the whistle on the FBI informants deal. You're 100% right, sir. Thank you for that. The other one, Pete Hegseth. Now, according to the news this morning, President Trump has said to Hegseth, fight back, fight back. He's not dumping him for anybody. You know Pete very well. I know him very well. What do you think about this story? How's it looking?
Look, I had a great meeting with him the other night. I had him come and speak to me and a dozen or so of my colleagues in the Senate. He outlined a pretty broad, bold vision for reform within the Department of Defense. And get this, Larry, he wants to take the Department of Defense and make it about defense again. Wants to make it about projecting a lethal, intimidating, powerful military force, rather than a woke enterprise engaged in a grand social experiment to placate the leftmost base of the Democratic Party. That's why they're fighting him so hard. That's why we need him, and I expect him to be confirmed and to do a great job as the Secretary of Defense.
As you know, I mean, just one last one here. Pete Hegseth is a highly decorated combat veteran, serving in 2 theaters. I mean, for some reason, these left-wing media reports don't seem to include that. He has a couple of Bronze Stars, if I'm not mistaken. He may have other decorations as well. I mean, he's a total patriot. He's put his life on the line for the country.
As he explained to us the other night, when we met with Pete Hegseth, he, as a warfighter, is going to be focused on the warfighter, because that's what the Department of Defense ultimately is about. It's not about creating more flag officer positions, of which there's been a gross proliferation over many decades. Not about this social engineering experiment. No, he's about the warfighter and making sure that we've got the most intimidating, lethal force out there.
Senator, I know you're going to be involved in the DOGE movement in the Senate, and I guess you're going to meet with Vivek and Elon tomorrow. Expectations are running pretty high, but I don't know Elon very well. I know Vivek rather well. They're very serious people. They're going to come up with some very strong recommendations, going to save a lot of money, going to cut a lot of regulations. What are you thinking here?
Look, I'm really excited to be part.
Want the effects of Viagra, but faster? Meet Rose Sparks. They contain sildenafil and tadalafil, but Sparks dissolve under the tongue. Dissolvables work.
Look, I'm really excited to be part of the DOGE caucus in the Senate. I'm excited for these meetings tomorrow. And as I see it, Larry, we've got to keep DOGE focused on how it is that we can reverse the dangerous modern trend in which Congress, number one, recognizes no substantive limits on federal authority, something that's sharply at odds with the Constitution itself. And two, a Congress that delegates most of its lawmaking power to unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats. None of this would happen if we stuck to the Constitution, especially if we stuck to the structural Constitution, federalism and separation of powers. We've got to restore those two things. So I think DOGE is a great opportunity to restore those, and with it, our fiscal stability in this country.
You know, sir, on that point, I know you're a constitutional scholar, and the issue of federalism, just for a second, I don't know if you saw my old friend, we worked together in the Reagan OMB a long time ago, John Cogan from the Hoover Institute, wrote a piece in the Wall Street Journal showing how the proliferation, the unbelievable proliferation of federal money given to states and localities has wrecked the budget for decades. I don't mean 10, I mean 30 years, 40 years. And this is something that federalism, I mean, these are things, functions the states and localities should do if the voters wanted to. This is not something the federal government should be financing and running. I mean, with startling numbers. I don't know if you saw the Kogan piece. He's an old pal, he's a smart guy. But you know, you're talking about the kind, why can't we apply federalism? Let's push all these so-called grants and assistance and welfare spending, push it down, get it off the federal books, let the states and localities, and if the voters down there want it, fine. They may not want it, as it turns out. What do you think about all that?
You know, Larry, I just left moments ago a meeting with all my Senate Republican colleagues, and we were talking about this very thing, not the article itself. I need to read that. But it sounds like he and I view the world the same way. But in that meeting, I made the point that if we followed federalism, if we focused on the enumerated powers of Congress, primarily the 18 clauses of Article 1, Section 8, we wouldn't have a $36 trillion debt, in part because we wouldn't be doling out all of these welfare benefits to the states with the idea that in some cases they match them, in other cases we pay for the whole thing or otherwise. There's a reason that happens. And it happens this way because we print money, they do not, they cannot. And that's why so many people have asked that all these things, which fundamentally should have been state programs, not federal, because they're not really within the ambit of the enumerated powers in most cases, that they ought to be done by states. But they want them federal because the federal government prints money, the states don't. And that's part of why we've gotten into so much trouble here.
Yeah, well, somebody ought to put their foot down on that one. Last one, Senator, this is popping up left and right. I know that you've commented down through the years on the Federal Reserve. You mentioned printing money. The Fed, of course, is the other printing press that nobody has any control over. There's talk that it's possible that President Trump might suggest a shadow Federal Reserve chairman or a ghost Federal Reserve chairman until Mr. Trump can appoint his own person in 2016. Do you have a quick thought on that? A shadow Fed chairman, sir?
You know, it's an interesting thought, and I'm not sure how that would work, to have a shadow Fed chairman. If that person's purpose were to advise the president, I don't see any reason why anybody could object to that. And unless that person is actually running the Federal Reserve Bank, doesn't have the authority of that person. But this gets back to my central grievance with the Federal Reserve Bank. We have to remember that this is a private, for-profit corporation that's been given immense government regulatory authority and immense control over the economy, and that once its leadership is installed, appointed by the president with Senate confirmation, that it's like self-running. This is a problem, and it's antithetical to the way our Constitution was set up. You're not supposed to take these things that have such a profound impact on public policy and our entire economy and render them beyond the reach of the voters of the electoral process. And I think that's consistent with why President Trump is so frustrated.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, nobody ever gave the Fed any mandate or legislative mandate to be the nation's central planner in the economy. Or at least I don't see it. They protect the value of our money. Anyway,
and that is a big point. The Federal Reserve is about central planning. The Federal Reserve is about this overall trend of controlling society, social engineering, or socialism. Bad idea. please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. It's through the support of the viewers going to the store and purchasing the products that helps me do this. All right? In addition, it's a win-win for you and for growing the channel and doing these things by getting the supplements and improving your health. So please, go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get NAD+. NAD+ is a supplement that I've added to my stack. The reason why I added it is that it helps with increasing the energy levels. It also helps with healing DNA damage. See, as we get older, we start to accumulate DNA damage, but we have mechanisms in our cells to repair that DNA damage. The problem comes in is that as we get older, we have more DNA damage. So it kind of overloads our internal mechanism of repair, and we need a little bit of help. NAD+ helps with that, with helping the DNA repair mechanism to be able to repair that DNA. So it is a supplement to take to boost up your energy levels, but also to help to repair your DNA damage. In addition, NAD+ is very important to help with neural health and neural protection. As we get older, our neurons don't function as well, and we need to take supplements to help with that. This is synergistic with other supplements like ubiquinol, resveratrol, C60. You'll notice there's a trend that I talk about with these stacks, and that is bring down reactive oxygen species, boost up that mitochondrial health, increase energy levels, right? And when you do that, it helps a lot of different systems in your body, especially your neurons. So please, go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the NAD+. If you're 40 plus years, you should be taking NAD+ just to protect your neurons, all right? Because by protecting your neurons, that means you'll have better balancing. By protecting your neurons, when you get older, you won't have as many gait issues. By protecting your neurons, you're gonna be able to have better mental acuity. By protecting your neurons, you're gonna have better muscle coordination. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the NAD+. NAC is also a supplement that I've added to my stack. Why? Because it boosts up the glutathione levels. Glutathione is needed to soak up free radicals. So you have the C60 pathway to soak up the free radicals, and you have the NAC through glutathione to soak up other free radicals. And that way, by targeting free radicals differently, you can soak them up more, and you slow down the aging process and reduce the stress on the cell. As you get older, you start to accumulate a lot of free radicals, and you're going to have to soak them up, or it'll continue to do cellular damage. So what's important to do is to take NAC. This is stackable with C60 and ubiquinol and NAD+. So NAC will boost up that glutathione level, soak up those free radicals, right? NAC also helps to detoxify your liver and your kidney, especially if you take acetaminophen. And NAC helps to calm down the nervous system, reduces anxiety. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the NAC. Resveratrol. It's an antioxidant, helps to get rid of senescent cells. It's stackable with C60. Resveratrol works really well if you stack it with C60 or ubiquinol or NAD+ or NAC. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the resveratrol. I've been taking resveratrol for decades. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the resveratrol. Now, with that said, I want to take a look at. So Kash Jordan. I think Kash Jordan was doing something. Yeah, Kash Jordan just released a new episode.
One
talking
ticker,
about New York.
one trade every week. My name is Nate Baer, and I just sat down with Peabody Award-winning journalist Bill Tucker and revealed
their local ICE field office like the one behind me. But apparently this one's backed up with appointments until 2030. And while the loosening of immigration restrictions should free up our overworked ICE agents, critics say these new policies will no longer check for past arrests or outstanding warrants. And while this new initiative is being tested in select cities like New York, experts say the situation at the border is about to boil over.
At least 1,500 migrants are rushing to our southern border, trying to make it before President-elect Donald Trump takes office.
And those migrants on the march as the Biden administration quietly loosens immigration policies before they go.
Starting next month, migrants in New York City will be able to bypass in-person check-ins to their local ICE office. They can instead check in on an ICE portal app, which reportedly has glitchy, unreliable software that doesn't check for past arrests or outstanding warrants.
They say it's needed due to the overwhelming backlog of in-person appointments, which goes back 5-10 years. And get this, ICE sources also told me they wanted to make it public, but their DHS bosses stopped them.
Mexican cartels right now are urging migrants to rush into the United States before Trump takes office. This comes as Trump insists he will begin mass deportations and vows he'll use the military to do that.
Ed Cuccia, a New York City immigration attorney, told The Telegraph that he had clients use the piloted app when it was being tested earlier this year, and says he doesn't think the system will change much, calling in-person check-ins a bit of a joke.
So there are accusations that someone is trying to sabotage President Trump before his second term starts. But what nobody's talking about is that although these new efforts to modify immigration-related procedures could speed things up and free up resources, they also reveal the challenges facing any president who wants to get this border situation under control. Speaking of which, our border is now experiencing an unexpected surge in traffic, with cartels and gang members rushing as many people towards the country as they can in a last-ditch effort to make a final profit off the thousands of people fleeing poverty in countries these very same criminals have already destroyed. And because U.S. immigration resources are stretched super thin, the current administration wants to use a combination of technology and relaxed restrictions to try and help them out. But critics say this new tech, which hinges on an app that asylum seekers will use to communicate with ICE, is riddled with bugs, easily exploitable, and will end up making the country less safe, as it will enable gang members and dangerous criminals to evade the watchful eye of federal authorities, along with possible deportation efforts, especially if they can make it to one of America's sanctuary cities that's vowed to resist additional immigration measures, even if that resistance means protecting gang members at the expense of the immigrant communities sanctuary city laws claim to protect. Which brings us to the real reason why critics are worried about a last-minute change to U.S. immigration rules right before a presidential transition. If this doesn't work, the entire system could become overwhelmed and implode, leading to a new type of immigration crisis that puts law-abiding immigrants and legitimate asylum seekers in danger, and, as you're about to see, will also allow the gang members and criminals who profit from this humanitarian crisis to keep doing so. So, here we are at 26 Federal Plaza, the ICE field office where asylum seekers are supposed to do regular check-ins, but that process may soon change because there's a massive backlog of work Immigrations and Customs has to do. However, critics say the elimination of in-person check-ins could be setting the country up for disaster. However, what most people don't know is ICE is so understaffed, they've already been allowing some asylum seekers to bypass physical appointments, and it seems like this new plan is to expand those exemptions to more people, and it's being tested in cities like New York.
The documents you were given instruct when you must report to an ICE field office. In many cases, in-person ICE check-ins may no longer be required. To remain compliant with ICE checking requirements, individuals only need to schedule an appointment online or send an email.
So that's how the process works now, and as you can see right now, not everybody has to do physical check-ins with an ICE agent, but there's communication between the person and the ICE field office before that happens, and it looks like now the government is testing the new default method of ICE check-ins as them just being remotely handled through an app or a website.
The New York Post has a couple of stories on this. Apparently, it's a pilot program being tested in select cities like this one.
And you can tell that it gets busy here. I mean, look at these barricades. They got a wraparound line operation going from the front door to the street. They got security out front directing people, telling them where to go. But critics say a technology-based approach that has cracks in it isn't the right way to go to solve this. And 20 years ago, if there was a line that was too long at a local ICE facility, you would hire more agents to help speed up the process. You wouldn't institute a new process that is different from the current process, which may be helping to keep the country safe.
But here we are in 2024, and there are some who think that with a technological solution here, the same number of agents could still do their jobs without being overworked. And although in theory this sounds great, if this program does have lots of bugs and loopholes in it, and the wrong people figure out how to exploit this system, we could have problems.
And according to the Post, critics are saying that there is no enforcement around proper use of this new system, and there are no consequences for people who don't use it as they are directed to. Now look, the vast majority of asylum seekers who are here, they're not here to become criminals or evade federal immigration authorities, but if someone is intent on doing that and they're not here for a legitimate purpose, this app could make that easier for some of the worst people on the planet, like gang members and other dangerous individuals.
The database for the current system flags arrest warrants for migrants to ICE officials. The outgoing Biden administration is allegedly loosening those restrictions and planning to launch a new ICE app.
So from this point forward, it's going to look like every step in this process is being done to manage a humanitarian crisis or sabotage the next president before his term starts.
But the problem is, if someone has outstanding warrants, criminal convictions, or arrests, the system will not flag that, which is something the current in-person process does. And that's a big problem, because if somebody says they're here claiming asylum, but their actions prove otherwise, perhaps that's something the authorities should look into. But if technology stops that from happening, people who are here to pursue something other than the American dream may get their chance to do it, and that's a bad thing.
And that's especially concerning when you consider that New York right now is experiencing a rise in gang activity, with gangs like Tren de Aragua committing all sorts of crimes in the city while living in some of our shelters that are supposed to protect and help asylum seekers. And with this new system, if a gang member gets arrested for doing something and they check in with ICE through their smartphone or through a computer, no one's gonna know about it. And according to the New York Post's review of this whole program, this app has glitches where if you check in through a website, it doesn't accurately store the location of whoever it is that checked in, which means people could be checking in from...
Let me chime in on this. All right. Trump is going to use his authority to take these illegal immigrants and send them back to the country of origin. All right? Probably going to start with criminals, gang members. The gang problem in New York is the theft and the gangs and all. It's a major problem. All right? So they're going to focus on that, right, first. But you have these individuals that aren't part of the gang that have been in the country during the Biden administration or even before, right, that probably also have, some of them or many of them will have to be processed to be taken out of the United States. But it's going to start with the criminals. And it's going to be hard for the mainstream media to fight against Trump when he's deporting criminals that are illegal aliens. All right? But to muddy the waters, have a new wave, a new caravan, a wave of illegal immigrants coming over the border during the Trump administration. And so he has to deal with that and tear apart families and you know, the play on the emotional fallacy as he's deporting the criminals. And so they want to muddy it. They want you to think Trump's a bad guy because he's going after, you know, Susie and Johnny that are poor from Nicaragua or Cuba or, you know, some other country, right? Instead of focusing the attention on the mainstream media with the illegal immigrants that are causing crime. So how Trump handles that, I'm not sure. Because obviously you got to stop the caravan. Best to stop it before they get to the border. And there's some tactics for, that Trump can use. The tariff tactic is a good one. But once they cross over, Trump needs to be forceful and push them back out of the country. He has to be forceful. He can't let this caravan, even if they're not criminals, you can't let this fester, because you have this new wave coming in. You have the criminal activity that's already in the inner cities from the illegal aliens, and then you have the ones that have situated themselves that aren't, quote, breaking the law right now, but they broke the law by being an illegal alien, right? And then some of them are being processed through as asylum seekers, but they didn't do it the proper way. They should have went through the correct port of origin and fill out the paperwork to do that, instead of coming in here illegally and then having nonprofit organizations helping them process, asylum. And that's that's a lot of people don't realize. There are nonprofit organizations within New York and these other sanctuary cities that are getting state funds, sometimes federal funds, but state funds, and donations to help process these illegal aliens so they can get asylum. So the nonprofit likes the money flow. Even though that they're helping these people process their illegal immigration status into, a pending status because they're seeking asylum, the nonprofit organizations are helping this happen. Well, stop the funding to the nonprofits. That's another great way to do this. But Trump needs to make sure that he gets the illegal aliens that are in this country causing havoc out. And he has to stop that caravan, stop this inflow. And then after that, start going after the ones that have embedded into the society. It's like it's a multi-stage process. But I'm telling you, the Democratic Party is pushing to muddy the waters. So when Trump starts activating this deportation of illegal immigrants that are causing social disruption, the mainstream media is going to go, but look at this other caravan that's coming over the border, and you're kicking them out too. And that involves children. They're playing up the emotional fallacy like they always do. They always do. And we just got to be forceful. Clean up the mess that failed immigration policy has created for decades. But mark my words, the Democratic Party is going to use the mainstream media to try to muddy the waters the first month or two of Trump's administration, when they start to deport the illegal criminal activity that's going on, the illegal alien criminal activity that's going on in the inner cities, while this new caravan of people are coming through the Rio Grande. That's what's going to happen. Lovely.
Unknown locations. We may have no idea where some people who could be dangerous actually are.
Ed Cuccia, a New York City immigration attorney, told The Telegraph that he had clients use the piloted app when it was being tested earlier this year, and says he doesn't think the system will change much, calling in-person check-ins a bit of a joke. He says either way, the immigration...
So we've got this app, it doesn't do background checks, but in New York, you've got an estimated 90,000 people that have to contact this field office and see if they need to come in. And hopefully this app is not rolled out in a haphazard manner to too many people at once. Because if it is, and the wrong people slip through the cracks before it's fixed, asylum seekers themselves could be put in danger. And that's because under the current system, gang members who live in our shelters would be found. down, but now that's not going to happen anymore, and these people may keep staying there. And the problem with that is some of these gangs, like Tren de Aragua, specialize in human exploitation, and this is a humanitarian crisis. And the last thing we want to do is help people who are intent on making this entire humanitarian crisis worse at the expense of the very people who it's named after. But sadly, it looks like that very well could happen, and it's already happening because our current right to shelter system doesn't do any background checks either. That's how these gang members are getting placed in shelters next to families with little kids who are in elementary school. Nobody gets vetted before being moved into these places, and because it's a sanctuary city, police officers are not allowed inside to patrol them and look for criminals and keep vulnerable.
Literally, this is one, not the only reason, but one of the reasons why New York is a shithole. It's one of the major reasons. Because there's too much crime, they're wasteful of taxpayer money, and people want to leave. People want to move out. I mean, you know, literally, if you're a CEO of an insurance company, you know, you have a high probability you're getting blown away on the street corner of New York. AKA, that's what happened yesterday. Now, of course, I'm sure that was, you know, a professional hit job, but the point here is that crime is huge in New York. It's filthy. It literally, the whole city smells like rat urine. The whole city. The whole city. It even smells more rat urine around, you know, the mayor's mansion. But, you know. And if New York is the canary in the coal mine for America, America is in trouble. I hope it's not. I hope it's not the canary in the coal mine. But the thing is that New York has been destroyed because of Democratic policies. Destroyed. And then you want to add in congestion pricing and hurt middle income people even more.
Individuals safe, as apparently we've still got this idea in New York that law enforcement and immigration are somehow toxic to one another. And when you combine New York's sanctuary policies with other laws we have that have decriminalized things like robbery and assault, making them misdemeanors, it makes sense why crime here is spiraling in a direction nobody's happy about. We've essentially created an environment that allows those who are intent on exploiting and hurting others to continue doing that and get legal protection for it while they do it. Which is why it should be no surprise.
They're getting legal protection because you got a DA that's not willing to prosecute, and you have nonprofits that are supporting this crap. Trust me, do not donate to a nonprofit if they're tied to immigration. Do not do it. Do not do it. I'm telling you, the nonprofits are heavily involved in this.
And an endless flow of stolen goods continue to wind up being sold on street corners throughout many middle-class neighborhoods in this city, with the profits going directly into the pockets of some of the very gang members who are taking advantage of this whole situation, forcing their neighboring asylum seekers to join their gang, commit crimes, and they do this by threatening and intimidating them, saying that their families are at risk if they don't cooperate. And this is kind of concerning when you think about that this app is coming, it's got glitches, people can evade authorities by using it, and it could be rolled out to tens of thousands.
I think Kash Jordan is doing a good job in exposing this, but let's just go at the 50,000 foot level by DrPaulCottrell. Let's stop trying to solve societal problems on a fucking iPhone. Let's get the basics. First of all, how are these people going to access? Do they all have iPhones? They all have smartphones? If so, how do they afford them? You don't solve these problems by we're just going to use an app. We're going to use IT. We're going to use technology to solve these social problems. Almost always, when government is using an app to try to quote streamline operations, it's a clusterfuck. Who's making the money? Who's making the money? We don't need extra layers of bureaucracy and technology. Just stop the porous border. But we could do it, we'll put that on an app. We'll call it the app, the Stop the Porous Border app. And as long as people log in, then maybe people won't come over the border illegally. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Too many people not using their brain. Too many people thinking, well, there's going to be an IT solution to this. You can see this in corporate America, where they IT too much. And then all of a sudden people stop thinking. And when you have a problem in your industry or a problem at your corporation, and because you have no one really thinking behind their monitor, then all of a sudden things start to fall apart. But you got an app for that. Use the brain, stop using the app.
Thousands of people to see if it works. And this is happening at a time when U.S. border policies are also being loosened, which critics say poses a danger not just to sanctuary cities, but to every city in this country. Restrictions are being loosened here in New York, and at the southern border, we've now got greater numbers of people heading towards the southern border than we've had in a long time. And they are being helped along by cartels and gangs who hope they make it into the country so they can make a profit before the next presidential administration starts. And for some reason, none of the people who are headed here seem worried at all about potential deportations.
These 1,500 migrants are rushing to our southern border, trying to make it before President-elect Donald Trump takes office.
And those migrants on the march as the Biden administration quietly loosens immigration policies before they go.
So before we get into how these caravans operate and who it is that's behind them, you've got to understand that anybody...
George Soros.
into the country now, they would be a legitimate asylum seeker and they would have documentation that allows them to remain here while their asylum case plays out. And although you can blame politicians for this situation, it's hard to blame the people themselves, many of whom are fleeing poverty. Regardless, there's now concern that with immigration-related procedures changing in sanctuary cities like New York and along the border itself, more people who shouldn't be in the country could come here. And these dangerous criminals and gang members could end up having an easier time evading federal authorities, which, to be honest with you, is the last thing a sanctuary city like New York actually needs, because that's not good for people who are here in a law-abiding capacity, including asylum seekers, because this will only enable a criminal underworld set on exploiting others to continue doing just that while getting cover from our legal system. But even though President Trump got elected with an agenda to reform our immigration system and carry out mass deportations of people who shouldn't be in the country, many of the folks who are now on their way here do not seem at all perturbed by that, which could very well mean they're coming here in a capacity that is currently legitimate.
I watched an interview where Trump said there will be a deportation of anyone who committed a crime from any country. But for an immigrant who hasn't committed any crime, there won't be a deportation. So I'm not afraid of anything. Whatever happens, the dream is the American dream.
Wait a minute. They want to come over here illegally. It's still breaking the law. If you want to seek some sort of asylum, go through the proper channels. See, this is the problem. So they're being told, well, crossing the border illegally isn't really that much of a crime, so don't worry about it. And as long as you're an abiding citizen, you'll be okay. Now remember what I said on the previous video. New York City needs the illegal immigrants, kids, in the public schools. Because one, the citizens of New York, the American citizens of New York, are having less children. Or they're leaving the city. That means that the amount of seats that are filled in these public schools are going down. That means the funds that they get go down. They need the illegal alien baby, all right, kid in the public school so they get funding. And then on top of it, New York is hemorrhaging residents to other states. New York's worried about losing congressional seats. The population of New York is going down as a state. They need an inflow and then legalize them so they maintain congressional power. Oh, now you wonder why Schumer is so hell-bent on having this caravan. I'm telling you, our country is being run by jackasses, literally, by incompetence, and by people that are on the take, AKA Schumer.
And to be there.
This caravan comes. So this gentleman, if he's willing to be on the news, he's probably not trying to sneak into the country. He's probably coming here in a capacity that will be approved, but you can't argue with his logic. In a few weeks, this might be impossible for many people, and the cartels and gangs that might help some of them get into the country are telling everyone.
I'm sure that almost all of that 1,500 caravan is coming over the border illegally, not through a port of entry properly.
That this is their last chance. Any new arrivals who file for asylum and move to a sanctuary city will likely not only receive shelter in a hotel along with food and clothing, but also legal services and immigration-related assistance to help them with their asylum application. And it makes sense why people are coming now. The leaders of these caravans are telling everybody that they better do it before the border shuts for good. And they're probably making even more money because of this increased sense of urgency. And what is apparently a $13 billion a year business these cartels have got going on our borders. An operation that starts to take shape just south of our borders when these cartels meet up with their customers. These large caravans bring apart and people go there. Whoever it is that's promised them access to right here in New York City. So right here in New York City.
I offer them ways to pay to move quickly to our southern border, and I will be willing to bet, although I'm not there so I don't know for sure, but I'm willing to bet that the smugglers are offering premiums for top dollar.
So this is the point in the journey where things take a wrong turn for just about everybody except the criminals, because people are now going to be faced with the last leg of this journey. The cartels and the gangs are going to say, hey, we've got a way to get you safely into America, but at this point, they go from being customers to prisoners in many cases. This is when people start getting exploited, and many times they are photographed. A record is made of who they are. They're required to make large payments. That's a story.
Meanwhile, the DA brags is eating tacos, you know, at the street vendor on New York and not doing his job. Dr. Paul Cottrell is probably going to have a heart attack while I continue on with this Kash Jordan video. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the ashwagandha root. Why? Because it controls your blood glucose levels and brings down inflammation. In addition, it also helps your cortisol levels. And I'm pretty sure my cortisol levels are skyrocketed now because of the illegal immigration policy in New York. So please, take the ashwagandha root, control your glucose levels, control your cortisol levels, bring down inflammation. Really important. Why? Because ashwagandha root is dual purpose. It can help with your cardiovascular health and help with your immune system by bringing down inflammation. It's synergistic with turmeric. Turmeric is an antioxidant, but it also brings down pro-inflammatory cytokines. It helps your immune system and your cardiovascular system. Take turmeric and ashwagandha together. I'm going to have to take turmeric and ashwagandha together. Why? Because I'm starting to get high blood pressure from watching Kash Jordan. Olive leaf extract, dual purpose. Help your immune system and your cardiovascular health. Take it every day, This is going to improve your lipid profile. That means that it's going to lower your LDL levels and increase your HDL levels and bring down inflammation. So please go to my store, get the olive leaf extract. Make sure you use discount 5, all caps, discount cap, and then the number 5, and you'll get $5 off. Back to New York.
About here, a 28-year-old banker from Ecuador was escorted to a bank while his family had to wait with the criminals. But it doesn't stop there. This continues along their entire journey into the country, and it happens again once they get to a sanctuary city like New York, where you've got gang members living in the Roosevelt Hotel, which is also the welcome center for every single new asylum seeker who comes into the city. From the moment they get here and get placed in a shelter, gang members are watching them. That is absolutely terrifying. And these, in many cases, are well-meaning individuals, and if they get targeted for exploitation once and it works, it's definitely going to happen.
They're still here illegally. They didn't go through the border port properly. Big problem. Big problem. Independent on the gang issue, which is a major issue, and of course, Trump is going to focus on that element first. But I'm telling you, the Democratic Party is trying to muddy the waters in the mainstream media, and when they have that caravan coming in, and you're trying to deport kids, they're going to play up that emotional fallacy. It's hard to play up an emotional fallacy when you're trying to get gang members out of these inner cities that are illegal immigrants. But you start deporting kids, it's going to not look so good on the evening news by Lester Holtz.
Because these aren't criminals. These are people that are just trying to seek a better life. But it's hard to argue that that's what they're getting when they come to a sanctuary city like this that has them surrounded by gang members from the moment they get here. And in many cases, these gangs are forcing people to become part of the criminal underworld. That's no way to get off to a good start in a new country, that's for sure. And many of these individuals may be forced.
Majority of these people that are in in these luxury hotels, they're illegal immigrants. They're not here legally. Now they're put on, they get here illegally, and then they're starting to get processed to get asylum. Now some of them will be denied, some of them won't. But they came to the country illegally. Why didn't they go through the correct port of entry and fill out the paperwork for asylum? Why? Because you're increasing your chances of getting in here and getting naturalized by breaking the law. But you're punishing the people doing it the right way. That doesn't seem fair.
Do things that prevent them from ever living a normal life here at all. And that doesn't even get into the potential national security implications that now exist from allowing some people to come into the country and evade federal immigration authorities. Which has many people saying our current immigration system really needs reform, and it needs it bad because these criminals, they're making life worse for everybody, including the very immigrant communities places like New York say that they care about. Is that what's happening? How would you fix immigration in this country? Do you think this new app is a good thing? It's a bad thing? Let me know. Thank you so much. I'll see you.
The app isn't going to help. Apps don't help society. All right? Big problems can't be solved with apps on an iPhone or an Android. Secondly, to fix the immigration problem, you have to be assertive and say, you're here illegally, you don't get asylum. Period. Sorry. You want to get asylum, go through the proper channels. Stop this horse shit. And the ones that are causing the crime and these gangs, they're illegal aliens, round them up and put them on a military plane and just drop them into their country without a parachute. You got to be forceful. If you're not forceful, they're going to keep on. The problem with Kash Jordan is that he kind of whitewashes the illegal activity of them coming over the border improperly. Stop whitewashing it. They came here illegally, period. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. Now they work with nonprofits to try to, give them, some sort of status, pending status for asylum that could go on for years. You got to go to the root source. The root source is we're allowing people over that border illegally. Stop it. It's really simple, and you don't need an app to do that. You really don't. An app isn't going to fix that problem. What we need is forceful. We have to force the protection of our border, period. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the nattokinase. This helps by lowering your LDL levels, increasing your HDL levels, and nattokinase can help break up clots because it's fibrinolytic. You should be taking this every day to improve your cardiovascular health. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the nattokinase. Now, taking D3 and K2, MK7 together is really important. Why? It has a dual purpose. It can help with your cardiovascular health and your bone health. So D3 helps to absorb calcium. It's a gene expression cofactor, and it helps to get rid of cells that need to go into apoptosis. K2, MK7 helps with your bones, your joints, and your cardiovascular system. When you use these together, they're synergistic. So please, go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the vitamin D3 and get the vitamin K2, MK7, improve your cardiovascular health and improve your bone health. All right. What else is going on in this wonderful world? Ex-Pence advisor reacts to Kash Patel. Okay, this is CNN that was published 5 minutes ago about Kash Patel.
Wealthfront offers a cash account that has one of the highest interest rates on the market.
If I send my money to Wealthfront, I know.
Kash Patel, Donald Trump's controversial pick to lead the FBI, has made no secret of his plans to weaponize the department to go after his perceived enemies. Those include members of what he refers to as the deep state, the fake news mafia, and even former colleagues.
No.
And Patel appears to be making good.
According to CNN, we don't have the Smith Modernization Act. According to CNN, we don't have a national security state that's going after law-abiding citizens. No, we don't have that. Of course not.
Already before facing a confirmation process, threatening former Trump White House colleague Olivia Troy with litigation and demanding that she retract, quote, defamatory comments stemming from her blunt assessment of their time together. Let's take a listen to that.
Kash Patel is a delusional liar. Let me just be very clear about that. And he would lie. Things up on operations. I think Mark Esper has talked about that as.
Let me get this straight. Fake dossier created by the Clintons, the Clinton campaign, Hillary Clinton campaign, promulgated by the CIA and MI5 or 6, whatever, talks to FBI saying, maybe there's some sort of Russian interference dealing with Trump. This is all happening during the campaign for 2016. FBI lies to judges to get warrants to do surveillance on Trump and his close advisors for the campaign. And she's talking about Kash Patel lying? Are you fucking kidding me?
where he put the lives of Navy SEALs at risk in an operation when they came to Nigeria. These are things that actually were happening in real time when he was in the role of CT coordinator in the White House. And I know this because at some point I realized that I needed to double check Kash's work to make sure that I wasn't.
Maybe the national security state's doing things they shouldn't be doing. And Trump and his advisors and his cabinet and the people that are a little bit more America first doesn't want these incursions by the national security state in foreign lands. And don't forget, Oklahoma.
Informing Mike Pence by relying on his word, so I had to go around him.
And Olivia Troy joins me now. She served as a Homeland Security, Counterterrorism, and COVID Task Force Advisor to Vice President Mike Pence. Olivia, great to see you this morning. I mean, what does that even tell you? That
Makes you wonder, why is she spinning this? Could it be that she was on the tape too, with all of the suppression that was going on during the crisis of 2020? You know, we've already covered that and what was going on with Zuckerberg. Yeah, put on the bright red lipstick and just tell us a bunch of lies on CNN.
Confirmation hearings, he is threatening you for criticizing him.
Yeah, I think it's a very clear sign of what's to come should he become the director of the FBI and how he's going to conduct himself. I mean, we should take him at his word. These are things that he has threatened in the past. And I think by doing what he did, by sending that letter to me, it was an attempt to bully me, silence me, intimidate me. But it's also a signal to others, right, as he goes into the confirmation process of trying to silence others in terms of telling the truth about his background. I mean, look, I am a person who believes that he is unfit for the role of FBI director, and I have concerns about how he will behave in the role and leading the nation's premier law enforcement agency.
Do you think that she toes the line for the deep state? Because it looks like they put a lot of lipstick on that pig.
So you stand by your criticism of Kash Patel?
I absolutely do.
Even if they have this letter saying you've got to retract all this, you're not going to do that?
Yeah, I'm not going to retract from telling the truth. That is where I am. And this is something that I lived when I was working with him, and it is absolutely true. My job in that role was to serve the Vice President of the United States in the best way possible. That is what I did. And if it meant, at times not taking Kash at his word, going around, look, there were people on his staff that used to come to my office and seek counsel from me and advice about what it was like to work for him, who know exactly what I'm talking about. Others have been very public about the things that I mentioned. I am not the only senior national security official who has, come out and said they have concerns about Kash Patel and his fitness for this role.
And so you would testify at a confirmation.
So if you're not fit, if you don't toe the line of the deep state, if you start questioning methods of the deep state, you start investigating the nefarious activities that they do, you must be a bad guy. Only people that accept the infinite wisdom of the deep state should be elevated to positions of power. Here's the problem. They won't continue to demonize a nominee unless that nominee has been inculcated in that culture to perpetuate their never-ending power in the national security state. Now, we the people, at the electoral college level and at the popular vote level, voted for Trump to change the national security state.
Hearing, if called to testify for Kash Patel, and you think that is it possible that you were just mentioning other officials who worked around him during the Trump administration, is it possible we might see other former colleagues be called to testify who would have things to say about things that he did right, things that they think he did wrong?
Yes, and the reason that I think this is so important is because we are people that worked in nonpartisan roles. That's how the national security community works, right? And that is why we're concerned, because when it comes to someone that's going
Really? The national security works nonpartisanly? Really? Does it really? I don't think so. They went after conservative mothers They don't want drag queen activities in their elementary schools. The FBI went after them. How is that nonpartisan?
The FBI, the last thing we need is a loyalist partisan hack leading that agency and doing things that are going to be just
loyal partisan hack. A loyal partisan hack. If they aren't part of the inculcation of the national security state, they must be a hack. I think she should use the word a person that has a hatchet, because that's exactly what he needs to do. He needs to hatchet the FBI. He needs to hatchet the CIA. He needs to hatchet the NSA. He needs to hatchet the TSA. He needs to hatchet the nefarious activities that have been going on with these agencies, especially with the added powers they were given right after 9/11. I mean, really, Dr. Paul Cottrell just wants, please, give me a government that was a pre-9/11 day government. Why? Why do we continue on with this crap with the national security state? Nonpartisan my ass.
Personal vendetta, and that is why this matters so much. And I'm happy. I'm happy to go before Congress and testify and tell them what I know. I'm sure others would as well.
And to be clear, I mean, if he becomes FBI director, I mean, he has talked in the past about going after members of the media, going after what he refers to as the deep state. Earlier this week.
Yeah, see, you know, they want to, guess what? The mainstream media and certain platforms in social media were part of the Smith monetization, which was a domestic psyop on American citizens to manufacture certain types of consensus. Something's not going right, blame it on the Russians. Get people on MSNBC that watch it to be convinced that it must be Russian collusion. Must be some sort of Russian conspiracy. Never-ending world, never-ending Cold War. Never-ending Cold War. But didn't JFK say, before he got his head blown off, didn't he say, beware of these agencies that run rogue? And we're living it right now in 2024.
We were showing an appendix from one of his books that shows this list of people that are from the deep state. It looks like an enemies list. I suppose he might say it's not an enemies list. Do you think if he becomes the FBI director that he will target people that he considers to be his adversaries or enemies, not only of Kash, but...
He should, the word ain't target. The word should be investigate. Were they complicit in doing things that were a policy that was coming from the national security state that may have been circumventing people's civil liberties? Should our mainstream media be in lockstep with the national security state? Should CNN take orders from the CIA? I would think no. And the people that did should be held accountable. And so the mainstream media is all worried. Well, they're going to be targeted because they know they fucking broke the law. They know they broke the law. They know they pushed information into the mainstream to try to convince people about a lie. They know they lied. They know they were complicit. And now they're afraid that they're going to be investigated.
But Donald Trump.
Yes, absolutely. And I would say that, on that list are Republicans on that list. And I would say that anyone that he feels has crossed the president in the future should really think carefully about what it looks like to have the FBI run by someone.
This is perfect. This, I'll tell you, the deep state is trying to muddy the water to try to convince that, you know what, it's the Trump administration that's out of control. What we have is a runaway national security state that's circumventing the Constitution and the balance of powers. Guess what? These agencies are underneath the control of the executive branch. They're not doing what they're not doing what the president's telling them to do, unless it's Obama telling them to look into fake dossiers against their political opponents and blame it on, some sort of Russian collusion. I'll tell you, this is seriously destroying our constitutional republic if we can't fix this. Now, is she smart enough? Is she just, is this her just perception? And she's not towing the line for anybody? I don't know. But the reality of the situation here is that there is a runaway national security state. And it especially has happened since 9/11 with their emergency powers that they were given. And they keep on creating another emergency somehow, some way. Or a need for them to be, where's the weapons of mass destruction? In Iraq. Wasn't that the reason why we spent $1 trillion there? Well, there weren't any. Oh, lovely. We'll tell the American public there's nothing to worry about 10 years later, after we spent all the money. After, thousands of soldiers were killed. Tens of thousands of soldiers maimed. That is what a runaway national security state does. Waste your money and causes our servicemen and women to be harmed.
Behave in this manner. And this is someone, his demeanor, when he was in the roles that I met him in, when he was working in the first Trump administration, this is how he behaved on a daily basis, was a division of always suspecting deep state people, always questioning it, hiding information, and I could...
Candidate Trump in 2016 was targeted by the FBI on a fake dossier. The moment he gets into office, there was never-ending suspicion, never-ending, targeting by the national security state onto the Trump administration. Don't you think Kash Patel understood that? Don't you think that he was questioning the deep state because of their activities they were going on with candidate Trump? Fuck.
On.
So you think he could go after John Bolton? You think he could go after Lisa Monaco, Stephanie Grisham, people like that?
All he has to do is just shave the mustache of John Bolton, and he's going to find the whole deep state in that mustache of his.
Yes, and it is concerning. These are people who are simply telling the truth about what they know, and I think we should pay close attention to what this means for the media, for people going forward. And is that who we want to be as a nation? Is that who we want to be as the United States, with someone in the FBI leading that organization, using it for political purposes and not using it to protect the safety and security of the American people?
And I got to run, but I do want to ask you something I asked Zoe Lofgren.
Did the national security state protect you during the crisis in 2020? No. Did they try to erode your civil liberties and your autonomy of your physical person? Did they protect you? No. Then why should we give them safe harbor? Because you give them safe harbor, they're going to do this to the 10th degree once Trump's out of office. You're going to hunt them down and you're going to prosecute them.
Previous segment, there's been some reporting over at Politico, Jonathan Martin reporting that the Biden administration is thinking about doing preemptive pardons. Do you think preemptive pardons are necessary for people like yourself, other folks that Dr. Anthony Fauci, Adam Schiff, has changed?
Why would Biden? Let's think about this for a second. Dr. Paul Cottrell, thank you for asking the question. Dr. Paul Cottrell, why would Biden's administration consider a pardon for Anthony Fauci? I thought that Anthony Fauci didn't do anything wrong. Why would he need a pardon? Maybe he did do something wrong. Maybe he lied to Congress and Rand Paul, lied to the American public about gain of function research and all the other fucking nefarious things that were going on with the bioweapons program? Maybe. Adam Schiff promulgating the lie about the fake dossier and the never-ending hunt during the first term of Trump. And what about Liz Cheney? What did she do that she needs a pardon for, other than being a lesbian?
That could be targeted by a Kash Patel-led FBI.
I mean, it's certainly something to consider. I guess my question is, I have not done anything wrong. I know that. And I know that many of us who have just spoken the truth, all we're doing is speaking the truth. But in today's environment, in terms of what's to come under the Trump administration, I think that's something
hunt them down, investigate. If they really did something wrong, prosecute. Because the deep state circumvented your constitutional freedoms. Guess what? There's turbo cancer going on. And you had a national security state that tried to convince certain people about what was going on during the crisis. You had censorship going on. You had the Smith Modernization Act activated with mainstream media lying to the American public. And now you have people like me and others that are trying to inform what really fucking happened. Hunt them down. Because guess what? They were hunting us down.
Thinking about and wondering what's to come. And I think I'm a prime example of what's to come when I've already gotten a threatening letter by someone like Kash Patel, who we know is a loyalist and a henchman for Donald Trump.
If you did nothing wrong, you got nothing to worry about. If you did something wrong, then you have something to worry about. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Help support this channel and help support the constitutional freedoms of American citizens. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get Myotrol. Myotrol will help build muscle and maintain muscle mass. Really important when you get older. A lot of people don't realize, that until it's too late, that you start to atrophy your muscles when you get older. And it's harder to gain muscle mass. Myotrol will help you maintain muscle fitness and increase your muscle mass. Really important. Also, it helps to improve the mitochondrial health, so you have ATP to maintain that muscle. So you'll have more energy and you'll have more muscle mass. By having more muscle mass, that means you're going to be moving around more. When you're moving around more, that means that you're not going to atrophy when you're older and have back problems and have hip problems and all this stuff. All right? The hip problems and the back problems, a big part of it is the atrophying of the body when you get older. Stop doing that. Work out a little bit. Do a little bit of cardio. Do a little bit of resistance training. Take Myotrol to maintain and build muscle mass. If you're an athlete, taking Myotrol while you're working out is important because it'll help to gain that muscle and help to fuel your body and recover better. So this is a great supplement if you're an athlete or if you're just older and you don't want to atrophy. Trust me. If you don't do this, you're going to have problems. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get Myotrol. And you're going to need muscle to fight the big state, the national security state, because they have a lot of muscle too. Because you look at all those FBI agents that are at these undercover FBI agents that are at these, different events. They happen to have the same khakis on and the same type t-shirt. They all have the same watch. They all have the same sunglasses from Oakley. Does anyone dress like that unless you work for an agency? They all have muscle. Don't you think that proud patriots that want to support the Constitution need some muscle mass? Of course. So please go to my store and get the Myotrol. Ubiquinol, really important to take. Ubiquinol is the most bioavailable form of CoQ10. CoQ10 is important for you, especially when you get older. It's an antioxidant, it helps to build up energy levels, and it also helps to improve the health of your neurons. This is a major reason why you should be taking ubiquinol. Again, ubiquinol is the most bioavailable form of CoQ10. I have a very high quality supplement here, ubiquinol. You should be taking it every day, improve your neural health, soak up those free radicals, get more energy, improve your mitochondrial health. This is synergistic with C60, resveratrol, NAD+, NEC. And since our agencies want to poison us with the water we eat and with the food, the water we drink, the food we eat, and the air we breathe, because they love spraying chemtrails, get zeolite. Zeolite will soak up free radicals, or not free radicals. So zeolite will soak up heavy metals, chemicals, and toxins, all right? So zeolite is a negatively charged molecule, all right? And it will attach to positively charged toxins, chemicals, and heavy metals. Once it attaches, it'll allow you to urinate that toxin out in about 6 to 8 hours. So the way you use this is you can use this zeolite daily, take a couple little drops underneath your tongue and drink filtered water. And do that every day. And what it'll do is it'll detoxify your body. Get rid of the chemicals that are in our water or in our food. And that way, your endocrine system and your immune system is going to perform better. In addition, some people just want to detox once or twice a year. For those people, what you should do is take a few drops underneath the tongue, just small drops, drink the filtered water, do that daily until you use up the bottle, and do that once or twice a year. But this zeolite you can take year-round as a maintenance. It's important to soak up those free radicals because they're spraying shit in the air, they're spraying stuff on our lawn, and guess what? There's, take a look at your municipality water, all right, and test it. And if you pay attention, the particulates in that municipality water is pretty high. Oh, guess what? That means there's chemicals in there that shouldn't be in there. So you need to filter it out. Now, there's different ways to filter it. I use a filtration system called Zero Water, and Zero Water is a 5-layer filtration system. But there's other ways to filter your water. But filter the water. Stop eating the processed foods that have all the chemical crap in it. And take zeolite to soak up those toxins and chemicals and heavy metals. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, improve your endocrine system and improve your immune system. All right? I mean, I have told you throughout this broadcast how to improve your health. If you just follow what I do. Because, if we don't have enough of us shining a light on people that have, bright lipstick on pigs telling us that the deep state's good, and we don't have enough people like myself saying no, stop the bullshit, we're going to lose our constitutional freedoms. All right, let's see what the mayor of New York had to say.
Looking for a gift that won't collect dust in the corner? This year, give them something they'll actually love. A gift they'll enjoy using every day.
So 9:33 now here in New York. New York City's mayor, Eric Adams, says that he wants migrants charged with crimes to be deported from his city. That's a major shift from his previous stance of waiting for convictions. This is what he said to reporters yesterday here in Gotham City.
I think the city should cooperate with ICE under certain circumstances.
This is not a new position, because in the state of in the era of cancel culture, no one's afraid to be honest about the truth. Well, cancel me. And if you come into this country, in this city, and think you're going to harm innocent New Yorkers and innocent migrants and asylum seekers, this is not the mayor you want to be in the city under.
A lot of people may not have expected those answers. Joe Borelli with me now, New York City Council Minority Leader. Joe, good morning. Welcome back. New York Post cover. Here we go. Cancel me. I don't care. Oh. Been a long time since we've heard that. We understand that later this week, in all likelihood, Tom Homan will be here in New York, and the two men will talk. What comes of it? What's the fate of the future for the safety of people in New York?
Well, hopefully it's a better outcome than we're seeing now. I mean, look, Bill, this election was certainly a wake-up call to the American people and most importantly to the Democratic Party. And it seems like perhaps Mayor Adams is the only one answering the phone because he's the only person recognizing right now that the American public and the New York public are simply not going to take the garbage that's going on right now where our laws hamper us from cooperating with ICE. It really is an unsustainable situation to have people who are convicted in other countries or accused by the NYPD of committing crimes and us not to be able to put them on the deportation process. People think, by the way, this is some extrajudicial.
The lipstick on the pig from the previous video from CNN, whatever her name is, you know, she was saying how the government is trying to protect the people, the FBI and the CIA and all these people are trying to protect the, American citizens. Where is the protection with this porous border? Where's the CIA? Where's the FBI? Where? They're incognito. They're nowhere to be found. Except, rummaging through the private items of Melania or storming the house of Roger Stone. They got lots of time for that, but they have no time to actually protect American citizens against a porous border. Makes you wonder why the national security state is blind to this. Why? Is it that they want it to happen? Because if something happened that was some sort of terrorist activity, then they would be able to march up to the hill at Congress and ask for more fucking power. So there is no incentive to stop it because the national security state wants more power.
People are simply going to go to the immigration court system and be adjudicated to be deported. That's all we're asking for. And I think Mayor Adams, if he can get this done, this could be a highlight of his first term in office.
Well, if you want to save some money, Department of Government Efficiency, now known as DOGE, has a couple ideas. Here it is. In 2023 alone, illegal immigration cost taxpayers $150.7 billion.
Now let's pause there. Let's just pause there for a sec. In 2023 alone, last year, illegal immigration cost taxpayers over $150 billion. Imagine how many vets could get the proper health care, to get the proper training for job training, to get housing, to be taken care of for serving the country honorably. But we got lots of money to give to illegal aliens. Now I know why E.T. from the Andromeda galaxy wants to come and visit America. Because it's a smorgasbord. It's a smorgasbord.
contest with other costs adjusted for inflation. World War I was $334 billion, Apollo space program $257, Manhattan Project $30 billion, Panama Canal $15 billion, Hoover Dam $1 billion. You know,
now let's get this straight. Now I'm sure that, I don't know if this is adjusted for inflation. This is adjusted for inflation. So it's apples to apples comparison. Illegal immigration just in 2023 is 5 times more than the Manhattan Project. 5 times more.
Voted on. That's what this election was about in many ways for many people.
It is, and people are sick of it. To give some more context, I mean, it's costing us about $5 to $6 billion a year here in New York City. That is more than the entire budget of the FDNY and the Department of Sanitation combined. So that should really give a sense of scale to anyone listening how much of an impact this is having on New Yorkers, not just those who are victims of crime, but.
And now you know why Schumer, the senator of New York, likes immigration, illegal immigration. Because it allows for funds to flow in, at the tune of 5 times the Manhattan Project.
Who have to pay taxes, businesses that have to pay taxes, people that have to get their property taxes increased every year. This is a real cost, and it's a significant cost. It's not something that's a drop in the bucket by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, they could withhold federal funds to major American cities if they don't cooperate, and that would be a stinger. Joe, keep watching it for us, okay? Thanks for coming back. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, Joe Borelli here in New York. Thanks.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The holiday season's starting. And let's say that you want to, start on the journey of improving your health, or you're trying to convince someone to do likewise. A great way is to get the supplements and go on that journey and improve your health. All right? Another great idea as a stocking stuffer, right, is the structural nano silver soaps. Very high quality soaps. Get a few bars for your household. Use them as gifts if you want. They're very high quality. Doesn't have all that fancy, chemicals that are in a Procter & Gamble, right? Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nano silver soaps. I have it in 4 different varieties. I have it in lemongrass, charcoal tea tree, peppermint, and I also have it in oatmeal spice. So get a couple bars for your household, or get a few, for gifts. They're perfect for stocking stuffers and stuff, But the key is to improve your health and to purchase the products from my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use the discount code DISCOUNT5, all caps, discount, and then the number 5, all caps, and you'll get $5 off, all right? And it's a great way to help support the channel and to improve your health. In addition, I have structural nano silver gels. And I have 2 different types. I have it in a dispenser that you can carry in a bag or in a tube. And you use it the same way, and they're dual purpose. They help to heal wounds. You can heal abrasions, cuts, minor burns. In a third of the time, it'll heal, a third quicker. And structural nano silver gels can be used as a skincare, a daily skincare, where you can apply it on your skin and then later in the day exfoliate. A great way to do it is just to put it on your skin before you go to bed and then exfoliate in the morning. And this also helps to neutralize pathogens. You can put it on your skin, put it around your mouth, around your nose, around your eyes, around your ears, lightly coat your nostrils. It stays active for 5.5 hours, and it's helping to build that barrier that you need. That's really important during the cold season. That's really important when you have people at work that are sick. That's really important when you're, out and about in a high density environment like New York and there's a lot of people sick. All right? Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nano silver gels. So that's the broadcast that I have today. I appreciate the ones that have been watching on the different channels with the live feed. Let me just do a recap of the market right now. The S&P 500 is trading at 6,090. The Euro USD is trading at 1.056. Oil is trading at $68 a barrel. VIX is trading at 13, so there's low risk. And Bitcoin ETF, BITO, which is the long ETF, is trading at 26.03. It's up just under 50 cents. So it went up as high as $1 plus, and then it went down. So this is obviously due to that push up of Bitcoin getting above 100,000. So that's my broadcast. Thank you for listening. And, please go to the store, purchase the products, and help support my work. Thank you for helping out. I appreciate it. And for the ones that were on X Spaces, thank you for listening. Again, this is supposed to be interactive. So in, subsequent episodes, if you have questions or if you, want to chime in and tell me your opinion, it's supposed to be interactive. Please, be a part of the show by just raising your hand and asking questions. Thank you for listening and have a nice day.